Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
Now let's get this party started.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Joy Taylor is joining me in 1 hour from now. Blazing 5, including my bet of the year.
Bet of the year?
My strongest feeling of the year in one of the biggest games. That's the Blazing 5, which last week was an ugly 2-3, our first losing week. But the numbers are great. I love it. It's great to be here on a Friday. I got thoughts on the World Series, why I'm rooting for the Dodgers, not because I'm in L.A. I love Washington over Dallas this weekend. Let me start with this. Let's just start with the story of the day. LeBron debuted, number one basketball player in the world last decade, debuted last night for the number one brand in the NBA. It is not the Warriors, but the Los Angeles Lakers, and I watched that puppy. By the way, LeBron lost. He's lost all 4 of his debuts in the NBA. He lost as a high schooler to Cleveland, and then he lost his first game in Miami, and he went back to Cleveland. He lost that one. And so with a lot better players that he's got now, and he lost last night in Portland. And by the way, and those seasons all ended up, they ended up as a playoff team, and I still think they'll win 47, 48 games. Listen, there's a lot of things in life that are hard. Calculus is hard. Algebra is hard. Traveling sometimes can be hard. Here's what's easy. Be nice to people. You'll make friends. It'll lubricate life. Don't outthink the room on this. The Lakers don't have enough shooters, and that is not going to change one iota all season. Okay, this is the easy one. What you watched last night's what you're going to watch a lot. Now, they'll be better at home. They'll shoot better at home, and the chemistry is really rough. So this team's going to be way better than you saw last night, and they were in this game late. But I said this 2 weeks ago on the show, and it's not like I'm, Copperfield here. David Blaine, I can read your mind. I said this 2 weeks ago. It is very obvious the Lakers were 29th in three-point shooting last year and didn't bring in any more great shooters. In fact, the guys that I brought in, JaVale McGee, Rondo, and Lance Stevenson, 3 for 3, can't shoot. That's what LeBron's going to need for Brandon Ingram, because he's not getting it from Rondo, and he's not getting it from Lance, and he's not getting it from JaVale, and he's not getting it from KCP, and he's not getting it from Lonzo Ball. This team has some strengths, but it's going to be LeBron and Brandon Ingram. Okay, and those are the 2 best players last night were LeBron, Brandon Ingram, and then Rondo. And by the way, so that's the team. And it's not a championship team. But they'll be better at home. But their big issue, folks, it's 2018. The Golden State Warriors have the 3 best shooters arguably in the history of basketball. They're the current dynasty. The only real challenger, in my opinion, is Boston, who has 3 great shooters, though not as good as Clay, Steph, and KD. And then Houston's got a bunch of guys who shoot mid-range jumpers so they can get close, but they won't beat them. That's what we have right now in the NBA. The Philadelphia Sixers have 2 unbelievable talents. Neither can shoot a 3, Simmons or Embiid, so they're not going to win the championship. In the NFL right now, you can have Jacksonville's defense, not winning a Super Bowl with Blake Bortles. You can have Cincinnati's defense. You're not winning a Super Bowl with Andy Dalton. I don't care what Miami's doing. They're not winning a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill. In 2018 in the NFL, all the rules are to help the quarterback. I don't care how good your defense is. Blake Bortles can't win a Super Bowl. I don't care if you do everything right. You can't win a championship with this Laker roster. By the way, Luke Walton knew this. Magic Johnson knows this. They knew this. They've told everybody this. That's why they went out and got tough guys, because that's what was on the market. Rondo's a tough guy, can't shoot. Get him. Lance Stevenson's a tough guy, can't shoot. Get him. JaVale McGee can block shots and dunk, can't shoot. Get him. This is why they created this roster, because they knew the market did not have any great shooters available, or at least ones that they wanted. So Kenny Smith and Charles were arguing about this last night, but this is not calculus. This is be nice to people. It's an easy one. Here they were last night.
You're saying, I don't look at any of these guys as great shooters.
None of them.
And today's NBA, you got to shoot threes.
You could space the floor and guys who.
But when he was in Cleveland the first time, he
didn't
didn't have a lot of shooters.
That's why he left.
But they went to the finals.
And they got swept.
Okay, there it is. Now, there are good things. They got 10 guys that can play. They have a very good second team. Josh Hart is surprisingly good. He's going to be a great player, 15 points off the bench. Tough, can shoot a little bit. And Brandon Ingram looks like he's better, although Kuzma looks like he's regressed. And Lonzo's going to get better because he had surgery. And so Lonzo's not in playing shape. He's on restriction minutes. Don't freak out about that, although I still don't know how much playing time he's going to get because it looks like Rondo and LeBron are coaching the team. In fact, Rondo's arguing with the refs during timeouts. He's not listening to coaching. So there's some good things, though. They got young, hardworking players. They're all going to get better. They'll play better than last night at home. Give them 20 games in chemistry, but don't outthink the room here. This is an easy one. You can't win big in the NBA. You can win 47 games. You're not going to win big if you don't have shooters, and they don't have enough of them. All right, so let's switch to football, and there'll be more on this, Joy Taylor, in 15 minutes. Changes will be made in Arizona. Last night, Josh Rosen, I told everybody, watch Josh Rosen. He's a rookie quarterback, and he was not great. And so what you saw last night was a rookie quarterback behind a bad offensive line against the great pass rush, and he got the you-know-what kicked out of him. But you know what I really noticed? And I noticed it very quickly in that football game was not Josh Rosen. I noticed the first or second best pass rusher in the NFL, Von Miller, going for a strip sack. Did it twice. By the way, Von Miller bulldozed a 300-pound offensive lineman. He could have been violent on Josh Rosen, but he chose to strip sack. By the way, that was one of Lawrence Taylor's specialties, the greatest defensive player of all time. Folks, declining people always complain about new stuff, new rules, new legislation. Talented people adjust and use it as an advantage. Years ago, Mike Krzyzewski almost went old crotchety man. He's the coach at Duke. The one and done came out, and Mike Krzyzewski fought it for 2 years. Hey, I don't like this new change among the kids. And then Mike Krzyzewski went, wait, I'm smart, not an old meathead. And Coach K shifted, and now they have the best one and done system in the country along with Duke. That's what non-meatheads do. They evolve. If you ever hear a comedian say, man, you can't tell the old jokes you used to. Yeah, you mean the racist ones? No, you can't. Do new stuff. The great comedians adapt. I go to YouTube all the time looking for new comedians. There are thousands of hysterical people, men and women in this country. But if you can't get past your 1980s jokes, you're not going to be great. Adjust. Don't be a meathead. Coach K at Duke almost went meathead. Von Miller, strip sacks. And by the way, this is what it's a burn. If you ever hung out with somebody and all they do is complain about the new stuff, get rid of them. It wears on your life. Von Miller destroyed a 300-pound lineman. He could have done far more damage to Josh Rosen. He didn't. He went after the football. Lawrence Taylor went after the football. In fact, Lawrence Taylor was one of the first guys that ever did it. Lawrence Taylor could be decimating, but Lawrence Taylor would go for the ball. He wanted possession. He wanted a touchdown himself. And Khalil Mack goes for the football. So that's what jumped out to me. Yeah, Josh Rosen was not good. Don't go too crazy on that. This is a bad O-line, a ridiculously conservative offensive coordinator, and a rookie defensive head coach. But the top defensive players in this league, none, by the way, I'm just going to throw this at you. Of the top defensive players in this league, J.J. Watt, Von Miller, Fletcher Cox, and Khalil Mack, those are the four best pass rushers in the National Football League. None of them have a roughing penalty. None of them. Because Von Miller and J.J. Watt and Khalil Mack and Fletcher Cox are talented, and talented people adjust, and they use what appears to be a negative, one and done, Coach K, into a positive. One and done, Coach K's killing it. That's what I noticed last night. So we are packed today. Absolutely packed today. Washington is going to beat Dallas. It all lines up, and I can't believe more people haven't seen it. Blazing 5 in 30 minutes. Steven Jackson stops by. Shawne Merriman. We had a loaded show. And in 40 minutes, a little less than 40 minutes, a little more than 40 minutes, excuse me, the Blazing 5. Best pick of the year. My strongest pick of the year. Coming up next. The NFL is mostly about teams we all know are good, about 8 of them, 10 of them, and we all know are weak to bad, 15 of them. There's one exception. There is one exception, and they're good, and we don't realize they're good, and we don't call them good, and they are good. And they're going to beat your team this weekend. That is coming up. Plus, yes, I'm rooting for the Dodgers. I'll tell you why.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Yes, I'm rooting for the Dodgers. They lead 3-2 in the series. Milwaukee next 2 games. Still not over. Rooting for them, yes. Not because I live in Los Angeles, because the Boston Red Sox just made the World Series. And I like tradition in sports. I like Fenway Park. I think it's going to be cool to watch 2 guys who could be MVP, J.D. Martinez and Mookie Betts in the World Series at Fenway Park, and Ben Affleck in the crowd, and Matt Damon in the crowd, and a historic Fenway Park, and one of the great pitchers in baseball, Chris Sale, and all sorts of history and pressure. I've been to Fenway Park. It's awesome. I've also been to Dodger Stadium. And L.A. at night in October looks amazing. And I get Clayton Kershaw and Yasiel Puig and Manny Machado and Justin Turner. Yes, I want that more than Craig Counsell going to the mound for the 11th time playing an analytic chess match. I'm sorry. It's nothing against Milwaukee. I root for Aaron Rodgers to get the Super Bowl over Blake Bortles. I'd root for Aaron Rodgers to get to the Super Bowl over all but about 5 guys. There's 5 or 6 guys I'd love to see in the Super Bowl. I'd love to see Brady again. I'd love to see Russell Wilson again. I'd love to see Drew Brees again. I love Drew Brees. I'd like to see Andrew Luck in one. I'd like to see Aaron Rodgers in another. I would choose Milwaukee and Green Bay in a Super Bowl over 90% of the NFL teams. But I don't want to watch Milwaukee. I don't want to watch Milwaukee in October. It doesn't take me anywhere. It's too analytic. It's too many. Greg Counsell was a boring player. He's even worse as a manager. I'm not into analytics. I'm into stars. That's why I watch sports. I watch Michigan football and Ohio State football and Nick Saban and Tom Brady. I'm not looking for analytics. I didn't like math in high school or college. I don't like it in my sports. Don't get me wrong. I get analytics, but I don't want to talk about it all day. I want to watch Kobe in his prime and LeBron in his prime and Manny Machado and Clayton Kershaw and Yasiel Puig and Mookie Betts and J.D. Martinez. I don't want to watch Craig Counsell walk to the mound 13th time. I don't want to watch middle relievers. Listen, if you get invited to a party, I'm just going to speak for me. When my wife invites me to a party, the first thing I say is, well, who's going to be at the party? And if it's nobody I know, I'm like, pass. If it's people I know, then I want to go to the party. Isn't that the way you operate, guys? I don't want to go to parties where I don't know anybody. I like to go to parties where I know people. I know these people. I know Fenway Park. I know Dodger Stadium. I know Clayton Kershaw. I know David Price, who had a great night last night. I know Chris Sale. I know Dodger Stadium. I have no problem admitting what the truth is. By the way, a Dodger World Series with the Red Sox on Fox is going to get a better rating than anything with Milwaukee. So, yeah, for my company, it's great. But it's also because I know their players. By the way, David Ortiz works for our company. He's a former Red Sox. He freaks out every time the Red Sox win a big game. He was freaking out last night. He's freaking out all the time, and that's going to be fun to watch, too. Yes, there's David Ortiz. So, yeah, I have no problem with it. When I get invited to a party, by the way, Milwaukee, your middle relievers are awesome. They're awesome. You have the world's best middle relievers. Knock yourself out with that. Miller Park's one of the loudest stadiums in baseball. Josh Hader's amazing. But if you're giving me people I know at a party and people I don't know, it's not real tough for me. It's not real difficult. That's why I'm going to watch Michigan football this weekend. Jim Harbaugh. I didn't like him with Brady Hoke. I like him with Jim Harbaugh. He's a rock star. Okay, mostly in the NFL, this is the way it works. Dallas Cowboys go to Washington and take on the Redskins. In the NFL, mostly, we think we know who the good teams are, and we think we know who the average teams are, and we think we know who the bad teams are, and you know what? I think we're almost always right. There is one exception, and that's Washington. The Redskins are the exception. They're better than you think. They're actually a good team, but they've had a series of bad breaks. Let's go to 3 years ago. They made the playoffs. They were 9-7. In the better NFC, they made the playoffs. Then the following year, they were 8-7-1 and were in the playoffs until week 17. And oh, by the way, lost 4 one-possession games late. And then a year ago, they were 7-9. That's no good. Oh, no, actually, they were good. They went to Los Angeles early and dominated the Rams. I was there and watched it. They pushed them around the field. Jared Goff, the defense, the offensive line. Then they went to Seattle, and they beat Seattle. And that was early in the year in Seattle when the Seahawks were healthy, and they beat them too. And then what happened to Washington? The strangest thing I've ever seen. Every single player on the offensive line got hurt. They had 36 different offensive line combinations last year. I look it up. I don't know how that's possible. They must carry 20 offensive linemen on their 55-man roster. They also had 23 different players on the injured reserve, which is about 3 times the league average. They fell apart. And oh, by the way, this year they're healthy again, and they thumped Aaron Rodgers, and they just thumped Cam Newton. They're good. I'm not saying they're great, but this is a good roster with good players, and Alex Smith doesn't turn it over. They're 5th in total defense. They've always been good at home. The Cowboys are seemingly never good on the road with Dak. And I'll make a prediction here. In about 5 to 6 weeks, starting this weekend, Washington's going to start winning a bunch of games. Then they're going to go to New York and beat the Giants. Then they're going to beat Atlanta at home. Then they're going to Tampa, and they're going to beat Tampa. And then they're going to beat the Texans at home. I think Washington's going to go on a 5-game winning streak or a 6-game winning streak, or they're going to win 6 of 7 and 5 of 6, and you're going to look up, and we're going to be into late November, heading into Thanksgiving or coming out of Thanksgiving, and the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins are going to be on the top of the NFC East. This is a good football team. It's not a great football team. It's not New England. It's not the Saints. It's not a great football team, but it's a good football team. 3 years ago, playoffs. Last year, battling for it, and until they fell apart. And this year, Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFC, beating them both. Yes, they were awful on Monday Night Football against Drew Brees. Anybody ever play badly in New Orleans on Monday Night Football when Drew Brees is setting an all-time record? That kind of smelled like, real quick. I like them. I like them a lot. I think the Cowboys are in trouble. Here's Joy with the news.
No.
Turn on the news.
This is the Herd Line
A team that
News.
is definitely in trouble is the Cardinals, losing 45-10 last night. Blowout loss to the Broncos.
35-3 at half.
Yeah, it was a disaster. Well, Steve Wilkes said it was premature to talk about any changes yet. I guess he slept on it and changed his mind because we have some breaking news.
Breaking news.
A change has arrived. The Cardinals have fired offensive coordinator Mike McCoy. Byron Leftwich will be filling in for him. And this really isn't surprising when you look at the Cardinals' offensive ranks through their 6 games. Points per game, they're 31st.
They're
Passing
awful.
yards per game, 31st. Total yards per game, 32nd. Third down conversion percentage, 32nd. Time of possession, 32nd. And rushing yards per game,
And by the way,
32nd.
the offensive line's not great. But in fairness, the Jets' offensive line's not very good. And there's not a lot of great offensive lines in this league.
You can't
Seattle,
blame it all on the offensive line.
I'm not, but Mike McCoy is hyper-conservative. I got nothing against him, but very rarely do I call out like coordinators. Like coordinators are guys that want to get head jobs. I root for those guys. I said this 2 weeks ago. It is so conservative and lacks so much creativity.
Right.
It is a dead offense. This move had to be made. And again, Josh Rosen is, I'm not saying he's a superstar, but
he's not this bad.
By the way, Jared Goff looked bad for a year too.
Right.
Okay, he's not this bad. This offense needs new life, new thoughts. And by the way, Byron Leftwich, the former NFL quarterback, is going to get the job now. The word is Byron Leftwich is going to go from quarterback in the NFL to head coach. People say he is really, really has the potential to be a very good coach. So this is a move that is not long overdue, but it's overdue. Keep your eye on Byron Leftwich as a coaching prospect in the next 5 years.
Well, get his opportunity now. I mean, look, when you invest in a rookie quarterback like Josh Rosen, you have to put the right pieces around him. And obviously their season is pretty much lost at this point, so making a change like this to at least benefit him for this year and his development is important. Next, you were just talking about this. The Cowboys offense woke up in a big way last week, laying a 40-7 beatdown on the Jags. But much of the Cowboys' problems have been pinned on Dak Prescott, which is something Jerry Jones is not having. He told USA Today he's long-term. Anything we need to see and need to know, I see with him. He's not a quote-unquote bus driver. He's a weapon, and as mobility diminishes on a given play, then you'll pick up where he is with that great decision-making with the mind he's got. So I guess you know where Jerry stands on Dak Prescott as of right now.
Now, it should be noted, he's paying Dak Prescott $700,000 a year. When Dak Prescott and his agent asked for $25 million with these numbers, it's really easy for me to say, I love our intern. That intern, I got this intern, I love him. But if the intern came to me and said, I want $200,000 a year, I'd be like, I hate that intern. That intern is no good and he's selfish. when you're paying a quarterback 700 G's, of course, as an owner, you love him. He's won you a lot of football games.
For a very low price.
Everybody loves cheap help. You know what I mean?
But he did say he loves him long term.
All right, we'll see. When his agent asked for $29 million a year, I want to see how much. Goulet, you're a Cowboy fan. If what do you think he'll ask for salary wise? He's gonna. If you look at his record, he's gonna say, "I get $25 million a year."
Well, if you're his agent, you're saying, "Look, he was 13-3. He's never had a losing season."
Thank you. By the way, Kirk Cousins 9-7. My guy's 13-3. So, I mean, I'm not saying. All I'm saying is, when somebody walks through a door and demands a lot of money from you, even if you're friends, you pause. You pause.
Sure. But I mean, if your friend is consistent, I don't know. I don't think Jerry's going to move on from him. Finally, the Lakers dropped their first game of the LeBron era, 128-119, to the Portland Trail Blazers last night. And as we talked about earlier, LeBron has never won a debut game with a new team, so he understands it takes time to make and he made a very interesting comparison last night.
Not as fast as you guys think it's going to happen. It's not. I always kind of compare it, to like instant oatmeal. It's not that fast. It takes a while for the chemistry to get to where you can close your eyes and know exactly where your guys are.
We live in a very instant gratification society.
Yes.
We are very impatient as people these days.
Yeah.
This is not something that I think is going to happen overnight, and I don't know that many people do think it's going to happen overnight. I think fans are probably overreacting to it.
Well,
as you said earlier, they definitely need shooters.
Oh yeah, that's not.
But it takes time to develop chemistry.
I will say this for the Lakers. The Philadelphia 76ers, Joy, they had a nickname for their thing. It was called The Process, right? And when you give something a nickname, it kind of feels like Saxonville.
Well, then you have to live up to whatever your nickname is.
So it was called The Process. By the way, The Process, Sam Hinkie and all these geniuses, they whiffed on Okafor. Nerlens Noel got hurt. Markelle Fultz is a bust. They had multiple busts in this process. The Lakers have not given their nickname a rebuild. I'm going to tell you something. They don't have a single bust. Kuzma can play. Ingram can play. Josh Hart is shockingly good. Lonzo, again, he's rehabbing.
Right.
Don't go crazy on Lonzo. Lonzo can play. I'm going to tell you something. The Lakers, every single draft pick can at least play. But they don't have a nickname for it. The Process has 4 busts and counting. The fans went crazy in Philadelphia last night when Markelle Fultz, a shooter, hit a 3 and the crowd erupted. That tells you he's a bust.
Well, we're going to react to every single LeBron game this year also,
right.
And it's one game. And look, that's not a bad way to come out. The Trailblazers are a good team. Damian Lillard was insane last night, especially in the last 4 minutes. That's a solid team. It's one loss.
It's in Portland. They've won 18 straight home openers.
Exactly. So you're going up against a good team with solid vets. That's no shame there.
Yeah, Joe Taylor with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Steven Jackson, 14 years in the association. No BS with this guy. Brings it. No BS. Actually, this Laker team could certainly use a tough wing guy who could shoot a J. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not insinuating anything.
Don't worry. I know how to put that out there. I'm ready to go.
You actually are in playing shape.
I'm ready to go.
So here's what I would say that's good about the Lakers, because we all watched it last night. Let's do the good first. They're pretty deep. They have a decent second team. Josh Hart, when he came out of Villanova, I was like, he'll be a Villanova guy. Smart, plays hard, low ceiling. I think Josh Hart can play, and he can shoot. So the good news is 10 guys, fairly deep rotation. Is that fair?
Yes. A lot of talent on that team.
Yeah.
A lot of talent.
Bad side is what?
Everybody doesn't have the basketball IQ that LeBron and Rondo has. And that's easy to see. A lot of LeBron turnovers came last night of not being on the same page with guys. He's seeing plays that these young guys don't see, and those turnovers happen. But the game ended the way I expected it to end. It's going to take them a while. Y'all got to remember, Portland was a 3 seed last year.
Yeah.
So this is a good team. And for them to come out and hang with this team, I think it was a great start for them, even though they lost.
Aren't you worried? I saw what you saw. Mm-hmm. LeBron and Rondo, not even Luke, on the floor coaching this team.
Mm-hmm.
This was my question coming into the season. What's Lonzo Ball's role? Now, again, he's rehabbing now. It's a minute restriction. Let's not go crazy on last night. where's he going to play?
That's a good excuse to use, minutes restriction. He's not going to play more. He's not better than Rondo. I mean, he might hit 2 more threes more than Rondo in the season because Rondo don't shoot that. But he's not a leader like Rondo right now. And you need that type of leader who has a strong personality on the court with LeBron. Because LeBron he'll take clean over Rondo. They're gonna bump heads sometimes because Rondo's just as smart as LeBron. But having those 2 guys on the team leading those guys, you couldn't find 2 better leaders.
Doesn't this come down to really a simple thing? Lakers don't have enough shooters
At all. It's not even close. In today's game, you got to be able to shoot threes.
I like Brandon Ingram, but I'm not sure he's a great shooter. They don't have one great shooter.
And
Josh Hart actually, again, I thought he had an incredibly low NBA ceiling. I thought he was an 11-point-a-game guy, classic Villanova guy, work hard, coachable, smart, low ceiling. He may be their best shooter.
He's a starter. KCP need to come off the bench. I understand he's with Clutch Sports, and that's LeBron's guy. He got to come off the bench. Hart is definitely a better player.
And he's stronger.
He has a better IQ, too, to me, of the game.
Really?
Yes.
Well, Villanova guys.
MVP of Summer League as well.
He was?
Hart.
So when I say 47 wins, I say that because I think they're deep. I think their second unit will give the first unit rest. I think they'll bang their way to about 47 wins. I think they'll also, Stephen, shoot better at home. Young teams shoot better at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll be fine. I mean, I wake up this morning and I'm like, they got a flaw and it's not correctable. Shooters.
Right.
But that's a 47-win team, isn't it?
No question. And you got to think, last year, the 3 seed was 48 to 50 wins.
Oh, it was.
So you get 47 wins, you can be a 3-4 seed in the West.
What is the word? There is a narrative out there. LeBron, nobody wants to play with him. What do you make when you hear that? What do you hear? What do you think?
I think it's false because I've never heard it with my own ears. You know, me as a basketball player, me being a great competitor and love to compete, if you love the game and if you want to win, there's no way you can say you don't want to play with arguably the best player in the world. He makes everybody better. He's a great teammate. You know, he's a great teammate on and off the court.
He's demanding.
He's demanding. He's definitely demanding, but what he's demanding from you, he's also demanding from himself. So you got to respect the guy like that. He leads by example. You know, you got a lot of guys that's the star of the team, but they don't give that extra effort. They just talk it. LeBron walk it how he talk it.
You'd play with him in a second.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Because all I got to do is spot up and shoot threes.
I mean, the NBA, when you play with LeBron, it's mostly a drive and dish game. That's kind of LeBron's thing.
Well, it's just playing with a dominant player, like playing with Tim Duncan. I got so many easy shots because they so worried about the dominant player. Playing with a dominant player like LeBron, all you have to do is have a basketball IQ, know your spacing, you'll get 10 points easy.
You think it's possible Lonzo's not on this team in a year? You listen, they're eventually, LeBron's not going to sit here forever. They're going to go get shooters. They're going to go get shooters.
I think he's a big piece that they would use to get a shooter. I agree with you on that.
I think so.
I think so, too.
I really do. It's nothing against him. By the way, it's nothing against Lonzo. But in the end, remember, athletes now, especially smart athletes, are playing longer because they eat right, they sleep right, and they do the nutrition.
Right.
Rondo's only 32 years old.
Right.
Rondo's got 3 years left in this league.
Easy.
Super smart guy. Now, last night I saw this. He's jawing with the refs. Sometimes he's not listening to Luke. He's talking to the refs. Rondo's no day at the beach to get along with.
Right.
So I do think, I wonder about as much LeBron's going to favor naturally the better player, even if he likes you. I think what's going to happen very quickly is LeBron's going to realize there's 2 guys on this team he can rely on.
Yeah, because
Rondo and Ingram.
He handled it right. He came in supporting everybody, giving everybody props. Ingram, you're next. You this, you that. He gave everybody feel part of the team. But like you said, I definitely agree with you. 10 games in, he's going to find out who's really with him and who's not with him, and some changes going to be made.
By the way, Kuzma, my prediction is Kuzma came into college, 4 years in college. So he had a very good rookie year, but I think that's what he is. I don't think he has a lot to grow. So it's funny. I watched Kuzma last night, and I'm like, he's regressed as a defender. He's not that. He's just a guy.
Right.
Nothing against him, but he's a guy. Ingram, I think, can grow. Josh Hart has grown. I think Lonzo could grow. So, by the way, LeBron was mic'd up last night. I want you to react to this. Here's LeBron mic'd up during the game, kind of teaching moments. Let's play it.
Stay down.
You stay high. Wherever go high. I got the rim. You stay high. Stay down. We got you. Anytime you fall, anytime y'all fall, stay down. Your brother come pick you up.
If you notice, before he can finish his sentence, you see who's finishing his words? Rondo. If you look back at it, the first time he said stay down, before he can get it out, Rondo said stay down. They're on the same page. They both understand. I knew that before I even saw it. When you fall down, you don't get up. Your brother's got to come pick you up. That's a part of the game. That builds camaraderie. And I know the teams I played on, especially Golden State, San Antonio, Indiana, if I fell, I didn't even think about getting up because I know my brothers was coming to help me up. That's something you got to know. And when your best player teaching like that, you got to love him. How could you not want to play with a guy like that?
Steven Jackson, good seeing you, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Lakers, I think they play again. Don't they debut at home tomorrow night?
Tougher game.
They get Houston tomorrow.
Rockets.
That'll be an interesting game. LeBron, Melo, interesting game. Coming up next, Josh Rosen. I ask you, who can give me the best Twitter account of Josh Rosen? I'll reward one of our listeners or viewers coming up next. And Belichick had a great moment as he gets ready to face the Bears this weekend and Khalil Mack. That's coming up. By the way, $40,000 pay off credit cards. Go to lendingclub.com/sports. lendingclub.com/sports. So everybody's watching Josh Rosen. And you're like, yeah, that guy's no good. He's terrible. I watched him. Well, they just fired their offensive coordinator. Their offensive line is one of the worst in football. And, oh, by the way, Denver's got a really, really great pass rush of Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. So, yes, he looks terrible. And I went to Twitter last night because I was on the little Angry Bird, and everybody's going, he can't play. He's a bust. He's a bum. Josh Rosen's no good. He can't play. Colin, you're wrong. He's terrible. He's terrible. I can't believe it. He can't do this and he can't do that. And I'm like, oh, is that so? His first Thursday night game on TV when you watched, and you have just definitively made it clear that he can't play at all. Okay, that's not what my 3 general managers in the NFL I asked. They all thought he could play. By the way, I want to remind you of the first Thursday night game for Jared Goff. It was his rookie game. I think we have the tape of this. They played Seattle in those Nickelodeon-themed uniforms up in the Pacific Northwest, those hazmat spill uniforms. Do you remember Jared Goff's first Thursday game? Let's roll the tape on that if we could. Remember that? He got blasted by Richard Sherman. And I remember what happened after he got blasted here by Richard Sherman. You all said, too thin, too small, not athletic, can't play, guy's a bust. By the way, no touchdowns. They scored 3 points. He couldn't do anything. Got sacked 6 times. Looked absolutely physically overwhelmed. By the way, then recently, he played another Thursday night game to Jared Goff. I believe we have a tape of it. Roll it, Sam.
Goff, end zone, Gurley, touchdown. Goff floats, Cup, downfield. What a throw. Touchdown Rams. Seam throw, Woods, touchdown. Now in the end zone, Cup, come on. Going for the whole thing, Cooks. Touchdown. Have a night, Jared Goff.
That was against one of the NFL's best defenses. It's funny, you told me he couldn't play. Got a new coach, new coordinator, better left tackle. By the way, Jared Goff's last 3 night games since that debacle in Seattle, he's 10 touchdowns, no picks, quarterback rating of 139.9, 3-0, 330 yards.
And an MVP conversation.
Yeah, he can play. It's funny the definitive opinions we have on guys when they have a bad coach, a bad line, a bad scheme.
Or just rookies.
By the way, Jared Goff and Josh Rosen are mostly the same guys. Tall, thin, Pac-12 guys who came from some money, who people think are a little finesse, but throw an absolutely beautiful football. They are. Now, I think Goff's a better prospect, and I said that coming out. But they're the same guy, played at academic schools, Cal and UCLA in the Pac-12, tall, thin, not real mobile, but can move if they have to, and throw the prettiest football in their draft class. Jared's now an MVP-level guy. Rosen needs a left tackle. He needs a Pro Bowl center. He needs a better coordinator and could use a deep threat. He'll be fine. Maybe not Jared Goff fine. He'll be fine. By the way, I asked all of you last night, go online and watch Rosen play, good and bad, and give me a rundown. Consider yourself a scout or a GM, and I'll put the best one on the air. Well, we found one. This comes from Grant Swinton. And by the way, I don't all agree with all of it. And here it is, Grant. He said pocket presence is questionable, brings trouble upon himself, doesn't allow play design to work for him, misses wide open targets, trusts his protection too much, not sure if he can command an offense immediately when down and able to deliver on third down. Strengths, deep ball touch, great feet, trusts his protection. Don't agree with all of it, but Grant Swinton, I do appreciate playing along with us. By the way, there was something else that happened in this game. There's great, and then there's like ridiculously great. The Beatles are there's great, and then there's the Beatles. The Beatles have had 275 million of their albums purchased. Second place is like 50 million fewer. There's great, and then there's the Beatles. There's great, and then there's Jerry Rice. Larry Fitzgerald last night had a touchdown catch. It was the 111th of his career. He's been playing like Tom Brady length, 15 years, decade and a half, and he was really, really good first day on the field. I'm not a trivia guy, but he is now only 86 touchdowns behind Jerry Rice. I want you to think about that. Jerry Rice is the Beatles of the NFL. Randy Moss is second in receiving touchdowns behind Jerry Rice and is only like 7,000 yards behind. Okay, think about how great Larry Fitzgerald has been and how long Larry Fitzgerald has been great. If you added Calvin Johnson of the Lions' entire Hall of Fame career, and he will be a Hall of Famer, if you added Calvin Johnson's career to Larry Fitzgerald's career, they'd be shy of Jerry Rice. There's the Beatles, and there's everybody else, and then there's Jerry Rice, and there's everybody else. So I would like to congratulate the most decorated current NFL receiver in terms of records, Larry Fitzgerald. Only, I looked it up, 10 more great seasons left to equal Jerry Rice in production. You know, he should call Alex Guerrero, Tom Brady's guy. And I would ask Larry Fitzgerald this: do you like avocado ice cream, and would you be willing to sleep in kale pajamas? Because all you need is a decade more to catch not only the greatest wide receiver ever, but in my opinion, probably the greatest player in NFL history is Jerry Rice. And to give you some sense of how great he is, think of how good Larry Fitzgerald has been for 15 years. He's been great for 14 of the 15. And he'd need another decade of that to catch Jerry Rice.
I don't know if kale pajamas is worth it, but something to aspire to.
You know, it's funny about that because my wife's vegan now, and I like to eat right, and I take it seriously, and I deeply care about it because I want to live long and I have young kids. But I got to tell you something. At the end of the night, sometimes I just want chicken wings and a beer. And my body doesn't care. My body now is saying, I want chicken wings and beer. And the other part of my brain is saying, live to be 98. And I'm like, I don't want to be old 98. I'm going to go to about 77 and call it quits.
You know, my grandmother lived to be 94, and she always told me not to get old. So whatever that means. But she did not eat kale.
She told you not to get old?
Yeah, she said, don't get old. Whatever you do, don't get old.
Yeah, so I mean, at 77... it's like I'm just going to eat a bag of chicken wings and whatever it does to the
and call it quits.
Call it quits.
I respect the determination and discipline it takes to be vegan, but
yeah, but you know what? As much as I love my wife, you know, we go out to eat, and it's a process. Can I replace this with this and this with that and this with that? And I'm
it's much easier to do in California.
Oh God, can you imagine being a vegan in Cincinnati?
Yeah, Kansas City might have a little trouble.
I think Kansas City, you would struggle to be a vegan. Cincinnati. LA, it's pretty easy, and it's still a lot of work. So congrats to Larry Fitzgerald, and don't worry about Josh Rosen. He's going to be okay. Don't freak out. Jared Goff was...
everyone was calling him a bust.
Jared Goff looked lost. And Jared Goff was a Pac-12 guy and didn't have mobility and was tall and was thin and didn't have a massive chest and didn't look like a great athlete and got rolled over by people. And then he got a left tackle. Then he got a good center. Then he got the right coach and coordinator. They grabbed him a deep threat. You wake up and you're like, oh, he can play. So much of football's coaching. And baseball managers, analytics, the guys upstairs are doing the work. Football, it's about coaches. Blazing 5 next. Hour 2, Friday. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. Later tonight, Dodgers are in Milwaukee, lead the series 3-2. Red Sox are already in. Dodgers and Red Sox would be an incredible World Series at two of the most idyllic, beautiful ballparks ever created on the face of this earth, Fenway Park and Dodger Stadium. A lot of stars potentially. Milwaukee, though, now Josh Hader is available tonight. So if it gets late and it's low scoring, edge Milwaukee. Okay, so this is going to be a long segment with no commercial break. There's going to be a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stories, a lot of fun. Won't waste any time. The Blazing 5 is brought to you by Chili's. 3 for $10 meal. Queso burger, starter, Coke, only $10. Score with Chili's. 3 for $10. I love my picks. Love them this week. I don't want to waste any time. It's time to make some money. Blazing 5.
That's a hot one. Let's blaze it up.
Fire it up.
It's Colin's Blazing 5. Panthers at Eagles.
Listen, this is all about the number. I don't bet teams, I bet numbers. The number's too rich here. Carolina's getting 4.5. They have a real running game. Now, with Cam Newton, they've always had a real running game. Yards per game, yards per rush. Vegas loved that number. They're top 6 with both. But Cam's also got 4 straight games with 2+ touchdown passes. Do you know that's the first time it's ever happened, the longest streak of his career? Norv Turner and Cam are working together, plus a dynamic running game, and the Eagles' defense on the back end is suspect. I'm not sure who wins, but the number's too big. How about this? Carolina upset 27-26.
Bills at Colts.
This could be the bet of the year. Indianapolis is 1-5, and you think they're terrible. They're -7.5. I think it's going to be a rout. The Colts have the best pass rush in the NFL that nobody talks about. They have 19 sacks. That's 3rd in the NFL. You wouldn't have guessed that. And they're starting Derek Anderson at quarterback. He's 35. They just signed him 8 days ago. And he's not great. And he's been in camp 8 days, and Andrew Luck's tearing it up, and they're at home. And the Colts have been in all the games they've lost. Right now, the Bills' offense this season, you name a stat, they're last. Points, yards, 3rd down, it doesn't matter. They're last in everything. And I like Shawne McDermott and their staff, but it's a tweener year. They drafted a rookie. He's over his head. He got hurt. Derek Anderson, 35 years old, just came out, and Andrew Luck is going to rifle through this thing. The Colts can score, and their pass rush against an immobile Derek Anderson, 33-10. Colts go on to win.
Saints and Ravens.
Like it, I love it. I'll take the Ravens at home -2.5. Ravens been on the road a while. They come home. Baltimore's always good at home. By the way, number 1 defense in the league is not the Bears. It's the Ravens. But you say, Colin, the number 1 offense is the Saints. Yeah, it is. But it doesn't travel as well on the road. And Baltimore's offense is sneaky good. First of all, on defense, they're number 1 in everything. Points, yards, sacks, yards allowed, they're number 1 in everything. And it's even better at home. And the Ravens have a sneaky good offense. 3rd down this year, their 3rd down offense is almost 50%. They can run the ball. They can throw it deep. Those 2 tight end rookies can play. I like Baltimore to win this game. Don't be a sucker on this. Don't fall in love with Drew Brees. They don't travel as well. Baltimore's coming home. Ravens win it 28-24.
Cowboys and Redskins.
Dallas is the tale of 2 teams. Cowboys are at home. They demolish the Jags. Cowboys on the road. They get demolished. Washington only has to give up 1.5 points. I really like Washington here. I mean, look at the numbers. Cowboys at home are 3-0. Cowboys away are 0-3. Cowboys at home average 29. Cowboys on the road average 12. Turnover differential, great at home, a mess on the road. By the way, the Redskins don't give the ball up. 2nd fewest giveaways in the NFL. They're good at home. They have a veteran quarterback. I told you, the next 6 weeks, Washington, look at their schedule. They'll be favored in all their home games. They're favored here. Everybody's paying attention to Dallas. Washington wins this by over a touchdown, 28-20.
Giants at Falcons.
I love this. Okay, Giants can't play. They're terrible. Giants are terrible. Yeah. Giants getting 5.5 points against an Atlanta team that's pathetic defensively. By the way, the Giants only lost to Carolina because a guy booted a 60-something yard field goal, and they had the Houston Texans beat. The Giants are all over the map, but they've proven they can go up against good teams. Houston's got a fearsome pass rush, and Carolina can play, and they gave both of them trouble. By the way, the Falcons are last in everything defensively. It's not the coach. They lost 3 starters, and they're all banged up again this weekend. And by the way, running backs who can catch, they've given up Atlanta the most running back receptions in the NFL, and Saquon Barkley leads all running backs with 40 catches this year. New York, so nice we say it twice. The Giants take the 5.5. They beat them outright, 24-23. Blazing Fry brought to you by Chili's. 3 for $10 deal. Get a starter, an entree, and a Coke, $10. Queso burger, mushroom jack fajitas, starter, Coke, $10. Chili's, you are awesome. Now, story time. Bill Belichick broke into this league being a coordinator. He was a coordinator for the Giants, and the Giants' best player was Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor's the best defensive player in league history. And Belichick used to call him Superman. Belichick doesn't give anybody compliments. He used to call him Superman. And so now Belichick this weekend's taking on Khalil Mack of the Bears. And everybody's like, Khalil Mack's just as good as Lawrence Taylor. And somebody asked Bill Belichick about Khalil Mack this week as he gets ready to face Khalil Mack of the Bears.
Bill, you've seen a lot of good pass rushers with Lawrence Taylor versus like Mack sort of rank up there.
Oh, wait a minute. We're talking about Lawrence Taylor now. Yeah, I'm not putting anybody in Lawrence Taylor's class. So you put everybody down below that. That's with a lot of respect to a lot of good players now, but we're talking about Lawrence Taylor.
I'm going to show you about 45 seconds of video of Lawrence Taylor. And for those on radio that can't see it, he is treating pro athletes like rag dolls. He's grabbing 230-pound men and throwing them all over the field. Lawrence Taylor was Mike Tyson in his early 20s. Other pro athletes were afraid of him. Lawrence Taylor won an MVP in Joe Montana's prime, in Dan Marino's prime, in John Elway's prime. Lawrence Taylor won an MVP. Khalil Mack is good, but Brock Osweiler had his best game as a pro last week against Khalil Mack. Here's Brian Cox talking about, when he worked with the Patriots, what Bill Belichick and Parcells said about Lawrence Taylor.
Bill Parcells told me a while back that Lawrence Taylor is single-handedly responsible for him being in the Hall of Fame. And secondly, Belichick and Parcells told me that Lawrence Taylor was the only guy that they ever allowed to sleep in a meeting. That's how good LT was, and that's what he means to them.
Now, I want you to think about this. Khalil Mack is great. In a passing league, Khalil Mack had 4 sacks as a rookie. In a passing league. When Lawrence Taylor broke into the league, it was a running league. There were teams that would throw 18 times, 20 times a game. He had over double that. He had 9.5 sacks. He won an MVP in the prime of Joe Montana, in the prime of Jerry Rice. I want to bring on somebody who faced Lawrence Taylor, the great Eric Dickerson, who, it should be noted, in the year that Lawrence Taylor won the MVP, you got a lot of votes, did you not?
Yes, I did.
How many votes did you get?
I don't know. I know I had 1,821 yards and 14 touchdowns.
You were second.
Yes, I had a good year. I had a great year.
So I want to. Is this the voting right here? Here's the 86 voting for MVP. You were second. Dan Marino third. John Elway. Look at that. Walter Payton. Okay, so you played against Lawrence Taylor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did.
Why don't you tell us a story?
Well, it's my rookie season, and they tell me, they say, Eric, we gotta play. Well, we're gonna ask you to block Lawrence Taylor. Now you gotta think I'm a rookie. This is my first NFL game. It's a season opener in the Giants in New York, and I said, block him. What you mean block him? And Bruce Snyder said, well, just get his hands down. But I ain't got to block him now. He said, no, just get his hands down. I'm like, okay. So sure enough, as the game starts, he's cursing me out. You rookie, you punk, you don't get no 100 yards. So I'm having a pretty good day.
Yeah.
As the game goes on, I still call it the play. The play's coming. So it's a play where Mike Barber's going to, cut inside, and we're going to let LT come free. So let him come free, and I cut him good. So as I'm walking back to the huddle, he grabs me by the arm. He said, hey, I can't say what he said. Hey, bleep, 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 bleep. Don't you bleep cut me. I'm like, cool, okay. I leave the field. I go to the sideline. And I'm just standing over there. And, we got the first down. They're like, where's the running back? Eric. I'm like, nope, not going back. Not going back. He said, he started laughing. But I said, that man said he going to kill me out there. I said, They said, I said, I said, nope, not now. They said, I said, I'll wait a few plays and I'll go back. And so finally I go back into the game. And after the game, I couldn't wait till the game to end so I could apologize to him. Because that's Lawrence Taylor. So after the game, I say, Mr. Taylor, I just want to apologize, man. He said, man, don't cut me. I said, man, I'm sorry, man. He said, man, I'm just joking. I said, man, don't do me like that, man. I said, I didn't want that play. But let me tell you something. When you played against Lawrence Taylor, he was the X factor in a football game. He changed the way offensive linemen got in their stance. Did you remember the linemen used to get in a three-point stance?
That's right.
He changed the way they couldn't get out of the stance fast enough, so they started putting their hands on their knees so they could get up.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he changed that whole deal because that's how fast he was on the corners.
Well, the story I've always heard that Belichick, Teddy Bruschi's talked about this. Belichick used to come into meetings in New England, and he would put in Lawrence Taylor video, and he would say, just do that. It will win if – and Teddy was a hell of a player.
Yeah, he was Lawrence Taylor.
Just do that.
Oh, yeah, let me tell you something. He was just that good. He really was. And, the thing is he could talk you down. I mean, make you like talk you down. Now, I'm a rookie, so I'm a little nervous that year, but after that, I got used to him talking, and I would talk back to him too. I said, shut up.
By the way, I do want to segue to this. In Jared Goff's first game on Thursday Night Football, he played the Seahawks. And he got crushed, and we bailed on him. And now we know Jared Goff's good. I watched Josh Rosen last night, and the line's terrible. They just fired their offensive coordinator. And he reminds me, this was Jared Goff's first Thursday night game. Remember that hit?
Yes, I do remember that.
And we all said he was a bum. I got to tell you something. You watch Rosen last night, you do realize that both Goff and Rosen, Pac-12, came from some money, not overly mobile, throw a beautiful football. I'm not saying Rosen's going to be Goff, but I'm reading last night what people are saying. I think Rosen can play.
Oh, man, Rosen to me possibly should have been the number one pick. I don't think he would fit in Cleveland. I think they have the right guy in Cleveland, and Baker
Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield, but most definitely he can throw the football. He has a beautiful pass. I mean, I talked to my buddy Roy Green in Arizona when I went to the draft, and I said, how's he looking in camp? He said, Eric, man, he can throw the football. He said, he's our future.
By the way, you have a cousin.
He's a tight end now, Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah, he's great. He's a great player. He's your cousin.
He's my cousin. He likes him, too. I mean, this kid can throw the football. It's funny how you can get away from a player and he's a bust. But, look, Jared Goff may be in the same situation if we had our same offensive coordinator and our same head coach, Jeff Fisher. But, Shawne McVay has done a great job of coaching this young man. It just shows the difference. When you have the coaching, it changes everything because quarterbacks have to have the coaching.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the NBA where I can get mine, regardless of coaching. No. LeBron's gone through a lot of coaches. Magic was good with or without Phil Jackson. For the quarterback position, bad coach equals bad outcome.
Bad. And a good example I can say is Jeff George. And Jeff was a great teammate, had a great arm, had a great feel of the game, but the coaching, he just didn't have the offensive coordinator. Had no one to coach him how to play that position.
By the way, Andrew Luck had Bruce Arians his first couple of years. Look at his numbers. Arians leaves, Luck gets slaughtered. Frank Reich comes back in, and Luck's having his great year. Same guy. In fact, I'd argue he's not as healthy now as he was 3 years ago. Coaching's everything. Eric, good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
On a Friday. Some thoughts about LeBron last night. It's interesting how fans don't like the move to Los Angeles, but I think fans are being hypocrites on this with LeBron. I'll talk about that coming up.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Oh, a lot of show left. I am so fired up for this weekend. By the way, Blazing Fry brought to you by Chili's, 3 for $10. Fajitas, queso burger, Coke, fries. Here's my Blazing 5. Okay, so fired up. Michigan State this weekend. I'm going all in on Harbaugh this weekend. I'm so excited. He's going to bury there. So excited. Let me talk LeBron. So, it's funny. A lot of you guys out there, Kevin Durant to the Warriors. That is the easy way. All right, I hear you. So that means you're a big fan of LeBron coming to L.A., right? Because you do get LeBron could have chose the Sixers, who have 2 stars. And he could have chose the Celtics. And he could have chose the Spurs. And, oh, by the way, the Warriors would have made room. He could have gone to all the good teams. He could have gone to all the good teams and won immediately and probably won a title with all but, one. But he went to a startup with a bunch of guys that can't rent a car in America. They're not old enough. Lonzo Ball currently can't get into the hotel bar. He joined a startup. He did not join Apple, the Warriors. He did not join Facebook, the Rockets. He did not join Google, the Spurs. He didn't join those. He joined a startup. A bunch of dudes who have nothing in their pocket, no legacy, just hope and energy, and can live off 4 hours sleep. That's what he joined. So if you hate KD for joining a great team and you hated LeBron for joining Bosh and Wade, you got to like what he's doing now. Because he could have done the easier route. You watched it last night. This is not going to be easy. They don't have a second-rate player. They don't have one. And he knew that. He knew that. I mean, they were hoping to get Paul George. Paul George isn't great. He's B+. Never hit a big shot in his life. So, and you saw him during the game last night. He's a teacher now. He's a mentor on the court. He's not dealing with Wade, Bosh, Kyrie, Kevin Love. You watched them last night on the floor.
You stay high. Wherever go high. I got the rim. You stay high. Stay down. Stay down. We got you. Anytime you fall, hey, anytime y'all fall, stay down. Your brother come pick you up.
He's coaching. This is a startup. It's a startup company, and he's the one that's got a little money. And he's got a bunch of kids, and he's like, listen, I had a startup. I bought and sold it, made some money. We're going to do a new startup. He could have gone to Apple, could have gone to Google, could have gone to Facebook, could have gone to Oracle. No. I'm going to go get a bunch of kids that over the last 5 years have won 31% of their games. That's worse than the Sixers. So if you hate what KD did, you got to at least respect this because it's not easy. And LeBron knows the game. He knew they didn't have any elite shooters. He's not stupid. LeBron knows. We got no elite shooters here. Well, Colin, I mean, it's half of it's business. You know, when Michael Jordan went to Washington, it was to eventually own and the Wizards, right? Like Michael Jordan's move to Washington was about 50% basketball, already had his money, had his rings. That was about business. And you love Michael Jordan. So what if this move is 45% business? Michael's move to D.C. was 45, 50% business until him and, I think it was Abe Poland, didn't get along. But that was about business and basketball. Like what I saw, a long way to go. I still think they win 47. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Well, Josh Rosen had a game last night, the worst game of his young career. He threw 2 pick sixes in the first quarter, becoming the first rookie quarterback in NFL history to accomplish that. He also finished with 5 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and 2 fumbles. Yeah. And he injured his toe late in the fourth quarter.
Toe injuries are the worst.
Yeah. It's, it really stinks when you just stub your toe against the bed.
A toothache or a toe injury, it doesn't feel like much. Brutal. Ruins everything.
Which I think I'll take a toe ache over a
toothache.
Yeah. Well, anyway, here is Josh Rosen on that injury.
I'm fine. I was just being soft. I'll be okay. I was just being soft. I'll be okay. Just my toe, but I'll be good. I obviously didn't play up to my standard or even close to it. But, that's why you play another one next week.
Well, while he's saying he was being soft, according to Kent Summers of the Arizona Republic, Rosen was in a walking boot today, and he was headed to get an MRI on his injured toe. Now, the Cardinals also fired their offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy, today. Byron Leftwich will be the new play caller.
Listen, Josh was being a little coy right there. His toe's all messed up, and he's not happy with the current coaching situation. But I will say this. Sam Darnold walked into a place with a bad O-line and no running game. You got to make the most of what you have. I mean, this situation's not easy. The Buffalo situation's not easy. Now, Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold have some things going for them. Baker Mayfield's got a real defense and a star receiver and good backs. And Sam Darnold has what I think Todd Bowles is the best coach in the NFL with a losing record. This Arizona situation is like the Buffalo situation. It's a rebuilding O-line. I'm not sure you have the right coordinators, and there's not a lot of weapons. So this is one of these, we have literally Baker and Darnold got better situations. Allen and Rosen got bad situations, and Lamar got the perfect situation for his skill set, which is I'm going to sit here for a year and a half and figure it out behind a great team.
Well, you would think going into the draft that anyone who ended up with the Browns would be in the worst situation.
You would, but they're
really
not.
improved their personnel.
Yeah.
So this will be interesting to see how the rest of the year goes for him. So next, Pat Shurmur is obviously not going to give up on the Giants just yet. With 10 games remaining, he says he still has confidence in the 1-5 New York Football Giants.
I'm well aware of competition and how this works. I played in the trenches, right? I was an overachiever. I get that. Listen, teams fight through adversity, and it's in the Giants' DNA to pull this thing out. I've seen it. I've studied the history of it, and I like the locker room that we've assembled. I'm impressed with the guys that we have in the locker room, and I know they're going to fight.
Sometimes it's in your DNA, and then sometimes you get caught in a space-time continuum and your DNA changes a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the year for the Giants.
It isn't. But the one thing about the NFL that's different from every sport, that on Mondays you sit down as a team and you all watch film together. Nobody wants to look like they've mailed it in. So in football, you don't hear about tanking. You don't hear about teams quitting. They're going to play really hard, and they're a flawed football team. But I'm here to tell you that they've got a lot of talent, and they have proven this year against Carolina and the Texans, good defenses up front, they can have their moments. I think the Giants, now again, I don't think they're a great team. I think they're going to go to Atlanta this weekend against a beat-up team, and the Giants are going to win. Every time we want to dump on a team, and now the Buffalo's just different. Buffalo's a disaster right now. I mean, they're a mess. They have a quarterback that's been there 8 days. But this is the way the NFL works. One of my theories on the NFL, Joy, find a team that got humiliated the previous week and take them the following week. Giants have been getting ripped.
Right.
Local, regional, national people. Watch the Giants play great Sunday.
I don't doubt that. And look, the Giants have a lot of talent. I'm not saying that they're, the Browns of last year or something. But, I mean, they don't have the pieces they need to be great this year. That's all there is to it. And that's not a knock on Saquon Barkley either, being the pick that they made. Saquon Barkley is a great player, but it's just not the player that they needed. And finally, earlier this week, Chris Sims and Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk called Tyreek Hill the league's best receiver. And now Patrick Mahomes has weighed in on that matter.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely, to me, the most explosive person in the league, and the way he's developed as a receiver over these last few years, I know he's going for that top spot, and I know there's a lot of great receivers in this league, but, I mean, I'm glad I have Tyreek on my team for sure.
The cheetah, fastest guy in the league.
Yeah, you don't immediately think of Tyreek Hill when you think of the best receivers in the league because you name Antonio Brown and Julio Jones.
By the way, Sammy Watkins makes a lot of money. Sammy Watkins doesn't make a lot of plays. Tyreek Hill makes huge plays.
They have so many weapons, though. Like that's not even a knock on Sammy Watkins, I don't think. So Hill does rank 4th in the league in receiving yards, 567, and he's tied for the league lead in receiving touchdowns with 6. So he only trails Adam Thielen, Julio Jones, and DeAndre Hopkins when it comes to yardage. So he's one of the top receivers in the league. You just don't think of it, especially because the Chiefs have so many weapons.
Joy Taylor, good stuff with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
There's a great young NBA reporter who had an interview this week, and we've had him on before, and I said, let's get him on again. LeBron debuted last night. Philadelphia won. Jimmy Butler controversy. Shams Charania is now joining us in the Herd. Great to have him on again. Writes for The Athletic and The Stadium, former NBA insider for Yahoo Sports. I think this is your first appearance on the chair.
Yes, sir.
The chair. I'm not sir, believe me. There's people dignified that deserve, you don't call me sir either.
No.
No.
Colin, sir.
Colin's better, so it's great to have you on the show.
Great having you.
All right.
Good seeing you.
Okay, you sat down with Jimmy Butler, and I got to tell you a story I heard from somebody I trust, Jones, that 2 years ago, the Olympics, and there was all these stars there, and there are a lot of egos. Boogie Cousins was on that team, and Melo was on that team, and there's some guys with, they're not easy. And a source that I deeply trust said Jimmy didn't fit. The guys all got along. Jimmy didn't fit. He wasn't great. He had the worst field goal shooting. And I like Jimmy. I've had him on the couch before. But I know everybody wants to say, hey, listen, it's not perfect. But some of this, it feels like Jimmy Butler is not accountable here, right? These are good players, and he wants to leave them to go to Brooklyn?
I think the way he's gone about it, maybe you could say it could be different. I just think he has such a way that he feels he can win and he should be able to win. And when guys around him aren't handling themselves that exact same way, it rubs him the wrong way. And he's shown that, obviously, throughout his process. But one thing I do think he's made it clear, now that he's back in the fold, he's got to be a good leader. Like, he's got to do things differently. He doesn't have a choice. And that's why he held the players-only meeting last week. That's why even last night I was there at the opener, and he had to be engaged. That's the only way Jimmy knows how to play. Be competitive, be engaged. He has to be.
By the way, Karl Anthony Towns didn't take a lot of shots last night. That feels like, foul trouble. I didn't watch all the game. Was it foul trouble?
Major foul trouble. He was
okay.
He had to be more aggressive still, though. Like, I think he took 6 shots, and I want to say 21, 22 minutes.
He's one of the top 15 players in the league. So that you said it's foul trouble. I didn't get to watch that game. Okay, so I want to segue to a couple other things. Number one, LeBron and the Lakers. Sometimes we can try to outthink the room on this. They don't have elite shooters. Golden State's got the 3 best shooters on the planet. Boston's got several. Houston's got a couple. Those are the best teams in the league. When I look at the Lakers right now, I think they're going to win 46, 47, 48 games. And I think they'll shoot better at home. But Shams, this is a shooter's league. They got Blake Bortles at quarterback. There are problems here that can't solve, right?
They need one. I think they need one more shooter. But even beyond that, I think the biggest key for the Lakers and these young players, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, is really just learning mediocre shots and really great shots. And that's what LeBron James brings to your team is figuring out the right way to play the game. And clearly it's a learning process. It's going to be one. They have to learn, all these guys, these young players, they have to learn how to play that way. You'd imagine LeBron's style is going to rub off of them as the year goes on. But to me, that was the biggest key. There was a lot of disjointed play from especially that younger group that was on the court, that second unit.
Shams, I don't know how the Lonzo thing's going to work. Rondo's a better player than him. LeBron prefers high IQ veterans. I'm not saying Lonzo's not smart, but I'm saying LeBron has a history. We got a precedent. He likes veterans. D-Wade, Bosh, Kyrie, Love. He could have had Andrew Wiggins. He didn't have any interest. How's Lonzo going to fit on this thing?
I think it's a lot on him. He's got to take that, I think, initiative. You can't just bring the ball up, especially in lineups with Lance Stevenson, Michael Beasley. It's counterproductive for him to be standing in the corner or standing outside. But I think that also comes with learning. This is his first game back. This is the first game, I think, one of his second or third games back since he had knee surgery in July. It's going to take him some time to learn. But also all these guys, they have to change the way they play a little bit when you're playing next to LeBron James, next to Rajon Rondo. These are high-level veterans, and you can't...
Demanding.
And you can't... You have to be productive toward the team, not... For Lonzo Ball, it's counterproductive if he's going to the corner. And even, Kyle Kuzma, if you have to take smart shots. All these guys have to take smart shots, play the right way. It's doing the team a disservice if those guys aren't taking smart shots or aren't playing to their abilities.
2 rumors, and this is what you do for a living. Kevin Durant's going to leave the Warriors. His brother goes to Instagram, says a bunch of stuff. I'm in the I'll believe it when I see it. I don't think you leave the Beatles if you have a choice. I don't think you leave Apple if you're an executive. I just don't think I think there's certain places you just don't leave. And they got a new arena. It's the smartest city in the country. He's a tech kid. His teammates are great dudes. Curry and Clay are great dudes. Draymond's a great dude. He's just, he's an agitator. You buy this, Kevin Durant's got one more year in Golden State?
Listen, I would just keep an open mind. He told me in July when I talked to him at Team USA, I asked him, why did you do a 1+1? What was your rationale, your reason behind it? He's like, listen, I'm going to keep my options open as far as financially, as far as decision-making. I'm going to keep it open. That was really the first time he had addressed it on the record and really opened it up that, listen, I'm going to be making the best decision year to year for myself. It wasn't, I'm going to stay in Golden State or I'm going to leave Golden State. I don't think he even knows. It's way too early. You don't know what happens over the course of a season.
By the way, LeBron's made 2 moves, and Stephen A. Smith told me this. The Miami move, he didn't know 24 hours before it. Stephen A. told me that. He said, Colin, I would have broke the story if I had it, and he did break it. And the Cleveland one shocked all of us. So I think guys like me, I think a lot of fans think, I've moved cross-country 4 times, and I'm not joking. It's all come down to an epiphany or in a moment about 2 months before I leave. So my guess is Durant, what you just said, his mind is open, his decision is not made.
It's going to be something that's going to be creeping in the back of his mind all year, but you're right. I don't think, these guys don't really make decisions. I don't think he's going to make a decision anytime soon, anytime relatively soon. You got to see how the season plays out. I think he's going to let this season play out.
Kyrie Irving. Now, he came out and said, I'd like to re-sign with the Celtics, blah, blah, blah. People,
I can tell you're a conspiracy theorist a little bit.
No, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I
I
think the world is not flat. My scientist connections say the world is not flat. But I think sometimes you say things when you're around people. You're around the relatives, and you're like, we should all go camping. And then you never go camping with your relatives. It's easy to say when you're sitting in Boston and everybody's like, yeah, we love you. Say, I'm going to re-sign. Kyrie is a little bit of a wanderer. I don't think he's going to be playing with the Celtics in 5 years. What is your gut feeling on him?
So when this was, and I got a lot of feedback on it too. Once he went public with it, I'd actually been working on it for a while. So he's been having meetings with Celtics ownership, with Celtics staff, and really relaying them the message that I'm committed. Like, I'm going to commit to you guys long term. This has been weeks, months in the making. His commitment, he did commit to the Boston Celtics to re-sign long term. Obviously, even with that, a lot of things can happen over the course of a year. But as long as they remain good, which, they've got one of the deepest teams in the league.
Oh, God.
And I've been saying that. Look at their bench. Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines, Terry Rozier, Daniel Tice. These guys, 4 of those guys could be starters on, I want to say, 1/3 of the league, 2/3 of the league.
Yeah.
And they're so deep, so good. He's such a fan of Brad Stevens. He really likes the culture he's built in Boston. He listen, I was like you. I don't know if I trust it, if he'll really stay in Boston. But he's made it clear to ownership, to people there, that I'm resigning. I just, as long as things continue to go well there, I think that's where he's going to end up.
All right, Shawne Charania, the Athletic Stadium. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. You just sat down with him. You just sat down. Jimmy Butler, trading deadline. Who's he playing for?
I think the Miami Heat have been by far the most aggressive team throughout all this. I'm not saying he's going to play there.
But they've been the most aggressive.
I'm giving you a sense of it. But right now, the talks have been dormant. I wrote about it the other day. Talks have been dormant. I think Tom Thibodeau got exactly what he wanted, getting Jimmy Butler back at practice, back leading the team in a players-only meeting, and back, in games.
He's not happy, though, right?
No, and he made it clear to me the other day, like, hell no, like, I'm not changing up, but I am going to continue to do what I do, which is be competitive and really be the best player on the court, score. And he's got to get his rhythm, too. He was rusty the other night. But, Pat Riley, also, another thing I reported, he did meet with his players right before the season and just made it clear, like, we're staying loyal to this group. This is our group going into the year, through the first part of the season. We're not having any talks right now on Jimmy Butler, but he was very transparent, very open to his players, I'm told. And that it's very unique when a GM or team president comes and meets your players right before the start of the year and be like, listen, you guys are good. You guys are safe for now. But I think eventually, depending on how the Timberwolves season goes, talks are going to rekindle.
All right, Shams, give people your Twitter account. They can follow you. He's a new NBA guy. He's very good. He's a hustler. Shams Charania. What's your Twitter account?
Just my name, Shams Charania.
Okay, spell it for the audience. It is spelled
SHAMS-CHARANIA.
Once you put the first 4 letters, you got enough followers. I know how that Twitter thing works. First 4 letters, boom, goes right to it. You're a blue check guy. All right, good luck to you. You're fantastic. I follow you all the time. You do your work. You're a hustler. I like that. All right, coming up next.
I appreciate it.
Jim Harbaugh's all those things. And all you Jim Harbaugh haters, get ready. It's going to be a bad weekend. It's going to be a terrible weekend for you if you hate Jim Harbaugh. And for those of us who love him, the ones who actually follow football and apparently know he can coach, all that next, the Herd.
The MLB postseason heats up tonight with Game 6 of the NLCS. Manny Machado and the Dodgers are just 1 win away from their second straight trip to the World Series. They'll try to finish off Christian Yelich and the Brewers in Milwaukee. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app.
Yelich is going to win the National League MVP, but he's been shut down in the series, 3 for 20. I think one of his hits was a bunt. It was. So he hasn't done anything in this series. Josh Hader is available for tonight. And I think, early in this series, I thought Milwaukee was the better team. Boston was the better team than Houston. This goes either way. I felt early in this series it was Milwaukee, but Yelich isn't hitting. And so cross your fingers if you're in Los Angeles. I do think the Dodgers and the Red Sox would be the better World Series. More stars, historic parks, and history. All right, every week at this time, I take the biggest or second biggest, third biggest, top 2 or 3 games in college football. This week, there's one huge game in college football. I call it the spoiler alert. So if you don't want to know the result of the biggest game in college football this weekend, then please, by all means, turn away. Here we go.
Warning, Colin is about to reveal the outcomes of the biggest college football games this week. If you don't want to know exactly what's going to happen, turn away now.
All right, Michigan is going on the road to take on Michigan State. This is a tale of two different teams. Michigan, it's Jim Harbaugh's best team ever. They run the football. They pounded it for 300 yards and 3 TDs against Wisconsin, and you can't run on them. They have the best rushing defense in the country, not Alabama, not Clemson. They have the best defense in the country, but easily the best rushing defense in a rushing conference, the Big Ten. At quarterback, they've turned it around with Shea Patterson. They had an awful first quarter against Notre Dame, and since then have been the best team in the conference. Meanwhile, Michigan State, it's an in-between year. Offensively, they allow the second most sacks in the conference, which is big trouble against Michigan's defensive front. And also Michigan State, one of the rare Michigan State teams that doesn't play great defense. Their running backs only average 3.5 yards a carry. You can get to their quarterback, and they don't get to yours. Spoiler alert. Michigan wins this game 28-20. And let me just say this, is that this game starts early, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. So by about noon, my time, and about 3:30, 3 o'clock to many of you, Jim Harbaugh will be in control of the Big Ten after winning along with Ohio State. It'll be 1-1A. Let me give Jim Harbaugh credit. One of the things I like about the NFL is even if you go 0-2, 1-3 to start a season, who cares? You got a lot of season left. In college football, if you have a bad quarter, fans bury you. The media buries you. Yeah, they had a really bad first quarter on the road against Notre Dame that's 7-0. Yet Notre Dame should have beaten Georgia last year. Remember when Notre Dame lost to Georgia by a point? Georgia ended up playing for the national championship? Yeah, Notre Dame's good. NFL guys. They had the top 2 offensive linemen drafted in the NFL in April. And Michigan had the guts to schedule a road game. Alabama won't go play anybody on the road at a conference. Home or neutral site. Jim Harbaugh's a grown-up, been to a Super Bowl. Didn't bomb in the NFL like Saban. More secure with himself. We're going to play big boys. Saban, has got this complex where I got to have a bye week here and neutral game. No, Harbaugh's a grown-up. And Harbaugh after the weekend, and here's what's amazing, is that the people think that we all know the political media is biased. The sports media is just as bad. They don't like Jim Harbaugh because Jim Harbaugh doesn't rush to Twitter and say snowflake and PC things. He doesn't. He's old school. He drinks milk with his steak. He's not always appropriate. He's clunky. Believe me, I know. He's rigid. He's hard to interview. And the media doesn't like that. The media wants people that say progressive things and are cool and are hip and are coastal and stuff they don't really believe. Harbaugh won't play that game. Harbaugh isn't liked by the media. But the media is biased because Stanford was 1-11 when he took over. By the time he left, he was 12-1 and won an Orange Bowl. That's pretty good coaching. He went to the 49ers. They were 6-10. 8 months later, they were 13-3 and played in the NFC Championship. And then Michigan was 5-7. And 9 months later, they were 10-3. Yeah, he can kind of coach. Hate to break it to you, media. But he drinks milk with his steak, and he's not PC, and he doesn't rush to Twitter, and he's not saying things that are progressive and cool and coastal. No, he's old school. He wears Dockers and that goofy Michigan shirt, and he drinks milk with his steak, and he's rigid, and he's rough, and he's hung up on me, or maybe I hung up on him, and I don't remember, but it was odd, and he's difficult. And I love him because I like characters, and he's a character. And oh, by the way, Michigan's really good. They schedule really tough teams. And after the weekend, by about noon my time to 1 in the afternoon my time, it's going to be Ohio State 1 and them 1A. And by the way, Joel Klatt was on our show this week. He's watched both. He'll be doing this game and said this.
I just saw Ohio State last week against Minnesota, and I've seen Michigan, even in a game in which they didn't play well. They were down 17-0 to Northwestern before they came back and won. From what I've both seen on tape, evaluating both teams, and what I saw live, my new favorite to win the conference is Michigan. And Michigan just had, I would say, a top 2-3 team performance of any team in college football last week. Last week against Wisconsin, they were unbelievable.
By the way, but he can't beat Ohio State and can't beat Michigan State. Okay, he got a bad spot in Columbus, Ohio. He got a bad spot. If not, he would have played in the playoff. And then against Michigan State, night game, they had it one, outplayed him, and a punter couldn't catch and did something a college punter would do. He's really good. It's inarguable. You look silly arguing the opposite. He went to some school called San Diego and won. Stanford was the worst program in the country. He won. The Niners were a train wreck. He won. And at Michigan, 5-7 to 10-3. And they're going to win this weekend. And I know he's not cool, and he's not PC, and he's not a snowflake, and he's rough, and he's rigid, and he's old school, but the dude can flat coach. Deal with it. Quirky's fun. Quirky's necessary. It's sports. Have fun. Weirdos make sports better. Hour 3 next. Hour 3 live in Los Angeles. This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Joy Taylor joining me, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. I was just reading something during the break. Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys. Paul Allen has passed away a couple days ago this week, owner of the Seattle Seahawks and Portland Trail Blazers. And so the team is, Paul Allen's sister does not want to own the team. Paul was really engaged with sports. Dallas Cowboy owner Jerry Jones, I'm just reading a quote here, wants Jeff Bezos, Amazon.com, to buy it. And he said I'd piggyback him to the owner meeting to get Jeff Bezos of Amazon to buy it. One of the things I've always loved about Jerry Jones is he's not threatened by competition. He wants to go to Vegas now. He wants the St. Louis Rams in Los Angeles. You know, they're going to build a stadium that's even nicer than Jerry's World. Really smart people with vision aren't intimidated by other really smart people with vision.
Well, I don't think Jerry Jones has ever really been accused of being greedy.
I mean, I just think Jerry's like, hey, it's better for my sport.
It's better for everyone.
It's better for, get Jeff Bezos in here. He's the richest guy in America. Let's get him to our sport. He's a tech guy. And this is what I love about Jerry Jones. Whenever anybody's like, I don't know about that guy that's got talent, surround yourself with talent. It rises all boats. So I thought that was an interesting story. Dodgers-Brewers, Game 6 tonight, Joy, here on FS1. Dodgers lead 3-2 in the series. And the Red Sox are already in the World Series. So, yes, I'm pulling for the star-driven Dodgers to face the Red Sox in the World Series. In 15 minutes, Shawne Merriman's on the show. Last time he was on the show, he was controversial and made news. Also, best for last, Monday's headlines today with Jason McIntyre, which is becoming one of my favorite segments on the show. Well, I mean, it was the big debut last night, right? LeBron's got a new team. Miami, Cleveland twice. Now the Lakers made his debut. Lakers lost, so let me get to it. Listen, there's a lot of things in life that are hard. Calculus is hard. Algebra is hard. Traveling sometimes can be hard. Here's what's easy. Be nice to people. You'll make friends. It'll lubricate life. Don't outthink the room on this. The Lakers don't have enough shooters, and that is not going to change one iota all season. Okay? This is the easy one. What you watched last night's what you're going to watch a lot. Now, they'll be better at home. They'll shoot better at home. And the chemistry is really rough. So this team's going to be way better than you saw last night. And they were in this game late. But I said this 2 weeks ago on the show. And it's not like I'm, Copperfield here. David Blaine, I can read your mind. I said this 2 weeks ago. It is very obvious the Lakers were 29th in three-point shooting last year and didn't bring in any more great shooters. In fact, the guys that I brought in, JaVale McGee, Rondo, and Lance Stevenson, 3 for 3 can't shoot. That's what LeBron's going to need for Brandon Ingram, because he's not getting it from Rondo, and he's not getting it from Lance, and he's not getting it from JaVale, and he's not getting it from KCP, and he's not getting it from Lonzo Ball. This team has some strengths, but it's going to be LeBron and Brandon Ingram. Okay, and those are the two best players last night were LeBron, Brandon Ingram, and then Rondo. And by the way, so that's the team. And it's not a championship team. But they'll be better at home. But their big issue, folks, it's 2018. The Golden State Warriors have the 3 best shooters arguably in the history of basketball. They're the current dynasty. The only real challenger, in my opinion, is Boston, who has 3 great shooters, though not as good as Clay, Steph, and KD. And then Houston's got a bunch of guys who shoot mid-range jumpers so they can get close, but they won't beat them. That's what we have right now in the NBA. The Philadelphia Sixers have 2 unbelievable talents. Neither can shoot a 3, Simmons or Embiid, so they're not going to win the championship. In the NFL right now, you can have Jacksonville's defense, not winning a Super Bowl with Blake Bortles. You can have Cincinnati's defense. You're not winning a Super Bowl with Andy Dalton. I don't care what Miami's doing. They're not winning a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill. In 2018 in the NFL, all the rules are to help the quarterback. I don't care how good your defense is. Blake Bortles can't win a Super Bowl. I don't care if you do everything right. You can't win a championship with this Laker roster. By the way, Luke Walton knew this. Magic Johnson knows this. They knew this. They've told everybody this. That's why they went out and got tough guys, because that's what was on the market. Rondo's a tough guy, can't shoot, get him. Lance Stephenson's a tough guy, can't shoot, get him. JaVale McGee can block shots and dunk, can't shoot, get him. This is why they created this roster, because they knew the market did not have any great shooters available, or at least ones that they wanted. So Kenny Smith and Charles were arguing about this last night, but this is not calculus. This is be nice to people. It's an easy one. Here they were last night.
You're saying, I don't look at any of these guys as great shooters.
None of them.
In today's NBA, you got to shoot threes.
You could space the floor and guys who.
But when he was in Cleveland the first time, he didn't have a lot of shooters.
That's why he left.
But they went to the finals.
And they got swept.
Okay, there it is. Now, there are good things. They got 10 guys that can play. They have a very good second team. Josh Hart is surprisingly good. He's going to be a great player, 15 points off the bench. Tough, can shoot a little bit. And Brandon Ingram looks like he's better, although Kuzma looks like he's regressed. And Lonzo's going to get better because he had surgery. And so Lonzo's not in playing shape. He's on restriction minutes. Don't freak out about that, although I still don't know how much playing time he's going to get, because it looks like Rondo and LeBron are coaching the team. In fact, Rondo's arguing with the refs during timeouts. He's not listening to coaching. So there's some good things, though. They got young, hardworking players. They're all going to get better. They'll play better than last night at home. Give them 20 games in chemistry, but don't outthink the room here. This is an easy one. You can't win big in the NBA. You can win 47 games. You're not going to win big if you don't have shooters, and they don't have enough of them. All right, so let's switch to football, and there'll be more on this, Joy Taylor, in 15 minutes. Changes will be made in Arizona. Last night, Josh Rosen, I told everybody, watch Josh Rosen. He's a rookie quarterback, and he was not great. And so what you saw last night was a rookie quarterback behind a bad offensive line against the great pass rush, and he got the you-know-what kicked out of him. But you know what I really noticed? And I noticed it very quickly in that football game was not Josh Rosen. I noticed the first or second best pass rusher in the NFL, Von Miller, going for a strip sack. Did it twice. By the way, Von Miller bulldozed a 300-pound offensive lineman. He could have been violent on Josh Rosen, but he chose to strip sack. By the way, that was one of Lawrence Taylor's specialties, the greatest defensive player of all time. Folks, declining people always complain about new stuff, new rules, new legislation. Talented people adjust and use it as an advantage. Years ago, Mike Krzyzewski almost went old crotchety man. He's the coach at Duke. The one and done came out, and Mike Krzyzewski fought it for 2 years. Hey, I don't like this new change among the kids. And then Mike Krzyzewski went, wait, I'm smart, not an old meathead. If you ever hear a comedian say, man, you can't tell the old jokes you used to. Yeah, you mean the racist ones? No, you can't. Do new stuff. The great comedians adapt. I go to YouTube all the time looking for new comedians. There are thousands of hysterical people, men and women in this country. But if you can't get past your 1980s jokes, you're not going to be great. Adjust. Don't be a meathead. Coach K at Duke almost went meathead. Von Miller strip sacks. And by the way, this is what it's a burn. If you ever hung out with somebody and all they do is complain about the new stuff, get rid of them. It wears on your life. Von Miller destroyed a 300-pound lineman. He could have done far more damage to Josh Rosen. He didn't. He went after the football. Lawrence Taylor went after the football. In fact, Lawrence Taylor was one of the first guys that ever did it. Lawrence Taylor could be decimating, but Lawrence Taylor would go for the ball. He wanted possession. He wanted a touchdown himself. And Khalil Mack goes for the football. So that's what jumped out to me. Yeah, Josh Rosen was not good. Don't go too crazy on that. This is a bad O-line, a ridiculously conservative offensive coordinator, and a rookie defensive head coach. But the top defensive players in this league, none, by the way, I'm just going to throw this at you. Of the top defensive players in this league, J.J. Watt, Von Miller, Fletcher Cox, and Khalil Mack, those are the four best pass rushers in the National Football League. None of them have a roughing penalty. None of them. Because Von Miller and J.J. Watt and Khalil Mack and Fletcher Cox are talented, and talented people adjust, and they use what appears to be a negative, one and done, Coach K, into a positive. One and done. Coach K's killing it. That's what I noticed last night. Shawne Merriman coming up. More breaking news. Good stuff today in the Herd. 40 minutes to go. Monday's headlines today as well. And we could have a World Series by, tonight.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
Blazing 5 earlier today brought to you by Chili's. 3 for $10 deal. Starter entree Coke, $10. Queso burger, mushroom, Jack fajitas, starter Coke, $10. Chili's, 3 for $10 deal. By the way, funny moment in the NBA last night. Yeah, the Philadelphia 76ers called the process. Simmons is great. Embiid's great. They have another guy, number 1 pick. They moved up to get him, Markelle Fultz. So far has not been good. He's a shooter who kind of got it into his head, and it's not a physical thing. It's an emotional thing. It's a psychological thing. It's almost like the yips in golf where he can't, or a PGA golfer can't putt. So last night he hit a 3-pointer. Let's watch. And the crowd went crazy.
They want Fultz to fire, and he does! Listen to this place. Wow. Good for you, Markelle Fultz.
This is Philly. They don't care. Will this translate to different games?
Look at chance of Fultz.
But he's going to be judged each and every night. I mean, this dude was the overall number 1 pick.
Yeah, so it's a big deal. It is a big deal for him. And right now, listen, I feel bad for anybody that's going through that stuff. Steve Sax, a great baseball player, for a while couldn't throw to first base from second. And you see golfers, I think it was David Duval. You see golfers, they get the yips, they can't putt. And then you see this happens. It happens. Rarely, but it happens. Well, Charles Barkley, it's a funny moment, went on last night to defend the kid, and this is what transpired.
The kid's struggling mentally with his shot. We're all pulling for him. That's why we're excited to see him do well. Now, you just sit at home in your grandma's basement with your drawers on, typing on your damn keyboard. Shut the hell up. We're pulling for Markelle Fultz. I do think, Shaq, all the people on the internet who are mean, they sit at home and living with their parents, like 32 years old, living with their parents, got their computer out.
Sitting in your grandma's basement with your
drawers on, watching, seeing what happened as the world go by them.
Cookies on their stomach.
Yeah, cookie crumbs on the stomach.
Nice image. Hennessy never
You know what they have? Hey, Shaq, you remember when we were growing up, one of them chicken pot pies? The pies were good back in the day.
This is an auto-tune moment.
And that frozen dinner with the meatloaf, you get a vegetable and the applesauce.
The Salisbury steak.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think we all had that as kids, didn't we?
It was very good, actually.
I actually had that Salisbury steak as a kid. With that, let's shift to the NFL. Shawne Merriman, one of the all-time great pass rushers. 8 NFL years, 3 Pro Bowls, 40 sacks in his first 3 years. By the way, Khalil Mack had 4 sacks as a rookie. You had 10.5, and you missed 8 games.
Yeah.
So when Bill Belichick, somebody asked him about this week facing Khalil Mack, and they compared Khalil Mack to Lawrence Taylor, and he said, time out. There's one Lawrence Taylor. Let's slow down. What do you know about Lawrence Taylor?
Well, he's the reason why I wore number 56. Lawrence Taylor, he kind of revolutionized the game and making quarterbacks throw the ball fast.
You were an East Coast kid.
Yeah. I was, from Maryland, PG County, Maryland. So, growing up, I always wanted to emulate my game after Lawrence Taylor, and I ended up getting number 56 because of it. So just making that comparison right now with Khalil Mack, you can't. It's still too early. Bill Belichick obviously was there with Lawrence Taylor, so he's seen him on a day-to-day basis. So to go out and ask a coach who was there firsthand how good Khalil Mack is, it's really unfair. And I did the same thing with John Pagano. So John Pagano was my linebacker coach with the Chargers.
Yeah.
When my first couple years, and then went up. He was the defensive coordinator with the Raiders. I called Coach Pagano. I said, Coach, how real is Khalil Mack? He said he's probably the best I've ever seen. And I said, you do know I played for you too, right? He got quiet because he just knew that Khalil Mack was just a whole different breed.
Yeah. The roughing the passer, I've been pretty strong on this, whether I'm right or not, that I believe pilots have to relearn the cockpit. And I think I've been in this business 20 years, and there's new technology every 15 minutes, and you can complain about it. The one and done came into college basketball, and Mike Krzyzewski's like, all right, I got to get the best players. J.J. Watt, Von Miller, Fletcher Cox, Khalil Mack, none of them have a roughing the passer penalty. Isn't it just like the responsibility for a defensive lineman to figure out the new rules?
Well, it is, but when you've played the game for a certain way for so long, like right. I wouldn't be able to last. I can tell you it's probably 5 or 6 sacks that would have gotten me multiple penalties.
But would you have adjusted and gone for strips?
It's hard because I only had a mentality to play a certain way. Now these guys have adjusted their game, but let's not forget that they were calling the penalties on like Clay Matthews a really big name. They wanted to make a statement.
You thought so?
Oh yeah, I mean because those were 2 terrible penalties, I thought. I don't think he should have been called for that at all. But if you're going to call it on somebody and you want to make a statement to the rest of the NFL, let's call it on Clay Matthews. He's had some questionable things in the past. He's jumped on guys out of bounds. He's done some things late after the whistle. Let's come down on him so we can show the rest of the league like you're not above being called on as well. So I think that's where that came from. And it wasn't necessarily what he did because I thought he did everything correct.
I think you'd figure it out.
You'll figure it out after you get $30,000 or $60,000 worth of fines.
Right. That's okay. I mean, my takeaway is, listen, the goal hasn't changed, get to the quarterback. The difference is it's catch and release like fishing.
Right.
You catch it and let it go. But the goal is still catch the fish. The goal is still the goal is still get to the quarterback. You'd still get to the quarterback.
Yeah, but how many times we seen guys really just let go of the quarterback this year and he throw the ball 30 or 40 yards down the field?
No.
I've seen it at least 5 times this year. So it's going through guys' mind during the play, but you got a split second to make a decision. That's hard.
This week Peter King came on and Trent Dilfer came on, and they both said the same thing. They said everybody's paying attention to the Rams. The Chargers may have a better roster. I watched the Chargers last weekend literally push the Cleveland Browns around the field. I mean, Baker Mayfield was overwhelmed, and Baker can play.
Yeah.
Baker's going to last on this league. He's a little guy, so you cross his fingers on health. But you look at this Charger roster, it is stacked.
They're stacked all over the field, and it's a good thing for them, right? Because they're still flying under the radar. I mean, Phillip Rivers alone is second behind Patrick Mahomes in
yards.
In yards. Being able to throw the ball, I think 48 times past 15 yards. He has 15 touchdowns this year. No one's really even.
And he's always been aggressive. I think it's a good point. We're paying attention to Kansas City because Mahomes is new.
Right.
The second big play offense in the league is this team in Los Angeles playing in a soccer stadium. The Chargers have 3 receivers, Melvin Gordon, probably a Hall of Fame quarterback, good left tackle. They brought Pouncey over at center. They're stacked. And they're aggressive as hell. Watch them play.
And it's funny you say that about a Hall of Fame quarterback because when I talk about it, people want to call me a homer. But I think that Phillip Rivers, when it's all said and done, will be a.
Yeah, I was thinking about this morning, Shawne, driving in. Is generally a guy's a Hall of Famer or not? I thought about this. If I think the Chargers are as good as anybody in football right now. Yeah. I really do. And that includes the Rams. Rivers is one of the few players in American sports that I think a Super Bowl visit and a win would tip the scales.
Right.
Generally, it's like Matt Hasselbeck got there's not getting in. We don't in football. It's not like baseball. It's not a stat sport. I do think Phillip, there is a lot of voters on the line. I think Phillip gets there. I think he ends up in the Hall of Fame. Now you played with him.
Yeah.
You know him. What was his best asset?
He's the biggest competitor I've ever played with out of anybody. Ever. Phillips just wants to win all the time. And more importantly, I think that, people have this stigma about Phillip, right? I mean, he talks too much and all this other stuff. And I felt that way when he was at NC State. I played at the University of Maryland. I felt the same exact way. I didn't like him. But when you play with him, you get a total different vibe. You want to play on the same team with him. And when you have this perception about a person or how he is, then that stigma is always going to be there, which is why that he'll finish up in top 3 or top 5 somewhere in all time passing yards and so forth when he's done, and why he should be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. But it's going to come up. Did he win a Super Bowl? Well, he's considered one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the game. You tell me.
I always said this. Think about this, Joy. He's the opposite of Eli. Eli's had crap regular seasons, but twice it's ended well. Philip's regular seasons are almost always good, and he's disappointed late. So now, for the typical fan, they'll be like, I'll take Eli.
Right.
But if I'm voting on the Hall of Fame and I don't have a jersey, I'm not a local fan. If you give me 12 really, really high-end seasons and no Super Bowls, or like 12 meh and 2 Super Bowls, who's the Hall of Famer?
But do you not think that Eli is a Hall of Famer?
I don't. I mean, come on, I don't.
Mean anything?
Well, they mean something, but just say this. Just take away the Super Bowls. He's a C- quarterback. He's been in the league 14 years. Goulet, you lived out in Connecticut. Do you think if you take the Super Bowls away from Eli, he's a C quarterback?
Right, but how do you take away 2 Super Bowls?
Because the Super Bowls, those were won by dominating, legendary defensive fronts.
Yeah, and even look back at some of the teams that I played on when we had LT and we had a stacked defense. I'm still sitting around. I got no jewelry in it, and it sucks. I mean, being a former player, know you had those teams that should have won at least 1, maybe even 2 Super Bowls. But if you go and look at, because I was also a part of that trade when Eli didn't end up going to the Chargers, and that following year they got the extra pick when I went 12th overall. So you always hear about it your whole entire career, and I'm looking like, man, he got 2 Super Bowls, but he's not better than Philip. He's not performing.
By the way, Carson Palmer's better than Eli, but Carson Palmer didn't have dysfunctional Raiders, dysfunctional Cincinnati.
Well, I mean, they may both still get in the Hall of Fame. It's not like we have to choose
I would vote Carson in, and I would vote Philip in.
But I'm saying, if you're looking at both of their careers, like Goulet said, you can't take those Super Bowls away.
Would you vote Eli into the Hall of Fame?
I wouldn't.
I don't think I can.
I think without those complete teams that he's had, there's no shot of he winning those 2 Super Bowls.
He's a David Tyree super glue catch from being released 2 years ago. Come on. Shawne Merriman, great seeing you.
Thank you.
Car shopping's confusing, a lot of different terms. Invoice, dealer price, list price. Here's what's not. New or used, go to TrueCar.com. Check out the true price. Save $3,000 off MSRP. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
To be clear, I wasn't making an argument for Eli Manning for the Hall of Fame there. Yeah. I do think he gets in, though.
You do?
Well, his last name is Manning, so...
I don't want to be a hater.
And he did win 2 Super Bowls for the Giants.
How many years has Eli been playing? 14?
He did up until last year when they decided that they needed to see a little more from Geno Smith, have that ridiculous run of consecutive starts.
It's again, fans tend to be, they just glom onto titles. Titles means you have a good GM. You have a good owner. You have a good coach. You
can't give all the criticism to the quarterback when it's bad, and then give him all the praise when it's good, and then it's not somewhat on the quarterback when he wins a Super Bowl.
So 14 years, 9 have been below average in the regular season. It's not a Hall of Famer to me.
Hall of Famer or not, I got to tell you, if my options are, and I live in a world of despair as a Dolphins fan, my options are Eli Manning and 2 Super Bowls or Philip Rivers, and there's no disrespect to Philip Rivers, who is a Hall of Famer, I'm going to take the rings.
Yeah, I think fans are. Yes, fans are.
All right, so a team that's not talking about a ring this year is the Cardinals. They had a blowout loss to the Broncos last night. Steve Wilks said it was premature to talk about any changes, and then this morning he changed his mind because the Cardinals have fired offensive coordinator Mike McCoy. Byron Leftwich will be stepping in to fill that place, and this isn't really surprising. Yes. Well, I mean, they took Josh Rosen in the first round very high, and through their first 6 games, they are 31st in points per game, 31st in passing yards per game, 32nd in total yards per game, 32nd in third down conversion percentage, time of possession, and rushing yards per game. You kind of get the point. They're
By
not
the way,
very
one
good
of
on
those
offense.
interceptions last night for Rosen, the receiver quit on the route. It was a slant pattern, and the receiver quit on it. And so Rosen's throwing to a spot, and so Rosen looks terrible, but it's like, that's not on Rosen. That's either on the coach, the call, or the receiver.
I mean, everything is not going to be on Rosen, but he's also not this bad. Like this, they needed to make a change.
Yes.
If you want to develop a quarterback, you can't let him go through the whole first year in that situation. And like we've been talking all day, Jared Goff, we all declared
Jared
to be a
Goff
bust
was
his
terrible
first year.
his first year. Then he got the right coach and the right left tackle.
Right. Yes. He's also in a boot today. Is Josh Rosen. All right. So over the past 3 years, Brock Osweiler has received nearly as much undeserved criticism as undeserved money, which is almost $38 million. So Adam Gase explained yesterday the importance of Osweiler ignoring the negative things that are said about him.
He's keeping pollution out of his brain. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's nothing. It's not like you ever read anything positive. So, I mean, why read it? So, I mean, in this profession, you just got to kind of stay in the bunker, you know, because you start letting all that other stuff kind of get in your head. I mean, you start to believe it after a while. I think anytime you go through any kind of adversity and you keep getting back up on the horse, I mean, it's going to be a positive. I mean, you're going to get better.
Yeah, it's actually great advice.
It is great advice. And I think in any profession where you're in the spotlight, you need to ignore 99% of the noise.
Derek Jeter, I remember reading a quote with Derek Jeter years ago, and he said, listen, I don't want negativity. It's hard to hit a baseball. I surround myself with friends who are optimistic and positive. And I remember being in a steakhouse in Tampa, and Jeter walked in with his boys. And it was spring training where the Yankees are down in Tampa. And it was his boys. And he's the rich guy, and it's just a bunch of dudes. But you don't, like Jeter's take was, listen, man, it's hard to do this. I don't want any negativity. I want to have yes dudes around me. And I think a lot of times, I don't have a lot of controversy in my life, but you start picking up that phone and staring at stuff, it's bad. It is pollution.
Everything we were just talking about with Markelle Fultz.
Yes.
Like, you can't allow, there's so much negativity and so much criticism now because everybody has the ability to give their opinion and to throw it to you on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or whatever. You know, you can email your website. Like, people can get to you and tell you how they feel. And then if you turn on the TV, it's really endless. So you have to limit that amount of noise anyway, because you probably got voices in your own head telling you that you're failing if you're not doing well. And Brock Osweiler, you know, he had a good game with the Dolphins, and he's probably going to end up starting because I don't know what is going on with Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, they say he's out for 3 weeks.
They're being very vague about it, and like he was available, and then he wasn't available, and he's limited, and who knows what's going on with Ryan Tannehill. So we got to keep an eye on that as well. Finally, the Lakers dropped their first game of the LeBron era to the Trailblazers last night. And as we talked about earlier, LeBron has never won a debut game with a new team.
Nope, 0-4.
And he understands that it takes a little time, and he made a very interesting comparison last night.
Not as fast as you guys think it's going to happen. It's not. I always kind of compare it, you know, to like instant oatmeal. It's not that fast. It takes a while for the chemistry to get to where you can close your eyes and know exactly where your guys are.
You know, with the Heat, they started 9-8. And with the Cavs, he started 5-7.
Did you see that hat he wore?
Yeah.
That hat is kind of a, you know, people in Ohio hate that. He's got that LA hat on. It's celebrating not the Lakers, it's celebrating Los Angeles. Midwest people hate LA.
I mean,
palm trees on that hat. Look at that. Palm trees on that. That thing is just saying, hey, I upgraded. That's got palm trees on that hat.
From Cleveland. I don't want to hear any hate from Cleveland. Listen, I was in Miami when LeBron came there and rode that storm all the way through for 4 years of constant hate. Hate. It was literally the most hated place in the sports universe was
By
Miami.
the way, so he's left Cleveland for Miami, and now he's left Cleveland for L.A. You get the point?
I mean, look, like Cleveland has nothing to complain about. He came back after living in Miami, which is hard enough to do, and then he brought you a championship. There should be no complaints whatsoever. None.
By the way, speaking of Cleveland, I don't even know why. I don't know why I'm going through my mind. Are the Browns playing this week, or they have a bye? Are the Browns playing this week? I got to watch Baker Mayfield. Where are they at? Oh, they're
playing the Bucks.
Oh, at Tampa? Oh, Baker will chop it up there. Yeah, they'll chop it up there. Tampa's pass defense is terrible. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
No, it's like I got to tell you something that I've loved about the NFL this year. It's made it so much fun for me. Is that when you know, I know most of you aren't a sportscaster, but I'm a sportscaster, and I tend to go all in or all out on people. And so it's fun for me to watch Westbrook play because I know most people love him, and I'm a skeptic. And I love LeBron, and a lot of you are skeptics. You know, I think Baker's going to be fine, but I think his ceiling is way lower than everybody else projects, and I think Sam Darnold was the pick. I'm having so much fun watching the Jets and the Cleveland Browns play. I mean, we all like watching Aaron, and Tom Brady, Breeze and Big Ben. We all like watching the great guys, right? I've never had more fun in my life watching teams that'll finish 6-10 than watching Baker and Sam Darnold. It's like another layer of football. It's like if you bet football, it's another layer of emotional connection. I'm having so much fun watching bad football teams play. I don't think Cleveland's bad, but I think they're limited. And I don't think the Jets are terrible, but I think they're limited. But it's really added a layer for me this year of watching all these young quarterbacks. I've had so much fun watching them.
Well, everything doesn't have to be successful to be interesting.
That's a great point.
And we're in the interesting business.
We are in the interesting business. All right, coming up next, one of my favorite segments every week, a Monday's Headlines Today with Jason McIntyre. Are you curious, based on your genetics, how your weight might be affected by diet and foods? Order your health and ancestry kit at 23andme.com/theherd. That's the number 23andme.com/theherd. Jason McIntyre next.
The MLB postseason heats up tonight with Game 6 of the NLCS. Manny Machado and the Dodgers are just one win away from their second straight trip to the World Series. They'll try to finish off Christian Yelich and the Brewers in Milwaukee. Coverage begins tonight at 7:30 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app.
Yelich hasn't done anything, 3 for 20, one of those a bunt single. So Red Sox are the best team in baseball year. Good bullpen, 108 wins, 2 MVP candidates, Chris Sale's an ace. And they have a good closer. So the Dodgers will have their hands full, or the Brewers if they get there. It feels like the Red Sox year. All right, best for last.
After almost 3 hours, Colin apparently hasn't gotten to the point yet. Quit holding out on us, Cowherd. It's the best for last.
Jason McIntyre, founder of thebiglead.com, Fox Sports Radio every Saturday morning. How are you?
I'm excellent. I watched a fun football game last night. Nice little NBA action. Good night in sports, was it not?
This is so great. And then tonight we got baseball. And then tomorrow we have, very early, by the way, 9 our time in the morning, Michigan State.
I hate that game, by the way. I just cannot touch that in the gambling sense. Michigan favored by, 7?
I think Michigan.
I don't know if I trust them on the road, but huge game for Harbaugh.
This is a rare Michigan State team that doesn't play defense. It's not their fault.
Then they beat Penn State last week.
I know, but Penn
State had Ohio State down by 12 with 8 minutes left.
Penn State at home and Penn State on the road are two different things.
That's fair.
All right, we call it Monday's Headlines Today. All right, number 1, Patriots at the Bears. What's the Monday headline today?
Let's start with the best game of the weekend, obviously. The public overwhelmingly loves the Patriots here. Colin, the headline Monday, massive upset, New England man caught in bear trap. I absolutely love the Bears. So on my podcast, Coming Up Winners, I give out a lock of the week. Last week it was Seattle. That hit. This is my lock right here. The Chicago Bears. People are reading way too much into the Miami game, right? They're like, oh, they lost to Brock Osweiler. Okay, they didn't prepare for Brock Osweiler. He was named the starter 24 hours before the game. And the defense comes in. They missed 19 tackles in that game. One of the best in the league. Colin, they had missed 15 tackles the previous 4 games combined.
Do you know why they missed the tackles?
Well, the heat in Miami was 100 degrees on the field.
By the way, I was told Bear coaches warned the players, don't go out for warm-ups. It is brutal. Khalil Mack in the second half disappeared.
Yeah. Well, he had the ankle sprain. I'm just telling you, people want to sell the Bears and Mitch Trubisky. Let's remember, Patriots 0-2 on the road this year. They lost to Matt Stafford. They got killed by Detroit. And then Blake Bortles lit them up for 400 yards. That defense is the same one that got shelled by those guys. I think the Bears, I'm taking them to win outright. Love it.
Yeah, Trubisky has played well.
Tell me you got them in the Blazing 5, please.
They didn't, but they were but they were the last game I didn't choose.
Yeah, I know. Also, the people are freaking out.
I always have a game that I, at the last second, take out. My staff will tell you I had Bears +3.
You know, this is the game where every public bettor, just the general public, Joe guy on the street, take the Patriots. No, all the smart money on the Chicago Bears this weekend.
All right, game number 2, Monday's Headlines Today.
Oh, boy.
Cowboys at Redskins.
Now, the Cowboys are a team I've kind of been hammering away, but all of a sudden they've got things right. They're going to a Washington team that everybody suddenly thinks is great. The headline Monday will be, it's safe to jump back on the Cowboys bandwagon. Colin, I know everybody's saying Washington's good, but let's remember, the Carolina Panthers turned it over twice early last week, got into a 14-0 deficit, and the Redskins could barely move the football. Alex Smith did not throw for 200 yards. And the Cowboys defense, did you see who's practicing this week?
Who, Shawne Lee?
Shawne Lee's back. David Irving back on the defensive line. maybe the best front seven in the NFC.
I will say this. For all the questions on the Cowboys, their front seven is young, mostly cheap, and super athletic.
Remember Jalen Smith, the Notre Dame linebacker?
He's back. He is back, and the kid from Idaho,
Van Der Esch, I think Boise State. He is lights out.
He's starting to play now. No, Dallas's front seven defensively is men.
So
it's
I came
good.
on here 2 weeks ago. Remember, I was talking Jim Harbaugh to replace Garrett. People, your fans on Twitter were coming after me. Dallas is back. This team is legit all of a sudden. I like Dak Prescott running more than I do passing.
Yeah, so
he
does
ran for like
everybody.
80 yards last week.
Yeah, okay. All right, Monday's headlines today. This is a good game. Panthers at the Eagles.
I don't know that it's that good of a game. I like the Eagles to roll here. This is a Carolina offense that isn't moving the ball well. I think Monday, your guy, Cam Newton's going to be in the crosshairs. The headline, fashion icon debuts new fall look.
Very nice play on words.
Because he's going to be on the ground all game long. Defensive line of the Eagles is dominating. Go ask Eli Manning how good that line is. And if you can't run the football, the Panthers, they can't pass. Who's their number one receiver? Devin Funchess?
Christian McCaffrey. I think he has the second most targets.
And the Eagles have extra time to prepare, and they've kind of owned Cam Newton. Cam has not performed well against his team. I really like the
Cam
Eagles.
played okay last week in the loss to Washington. I thought he was okay.
He was okay, but I mean, how do you watch Drew Brees torch the Redskins secondary, and then Cam Newton comes in and is like, okay? He was just all right. He wasn't like, I'm going to win this game on the road. And he had 4 cracks inside the, what do they call it, the green zone at the end of the game and couldn't get it done. So
Monday's headlines today, a game under the radar, Browns at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, how could Baker Mayfield be under the
I know.
radar?
I told it's funny. There's so many games I want to watch this weekend. Plus, I got the World Series. Plus, I got Harbaugh. So tonight, plus I had LeBron's debut. I didn't put it in my Blazing Five, and I forgot who they played.
You didn't fade the Browns? Wow. So Cleveland goes to Tampa. And, you hear Tyrod Taylor chirping a little bit this week. Hey, trade me. Don't sit me on the bench.
Oh,
did you miss that?
No, I missed that.
So I think that.
I missed that.
Tell Baker Mayfield to look away. Browns' 30th quarterback isn't the answer either. Now, listen, I don't want Joel Klatt to come out of nowhere and attack me. Listen, if you can't get right against the Tampa Bay secondary, 32nd in every passing category, there's going to be some questions for Baker Mayfield.
Did you see what the Chargers did against Baker Mayfield?
They bum rushed him.
Well, they bum rushed him up the middle, and knowing that Baker's size is an issue and he couldn't see over the line. So they forced Baker to move out of the pocket where he loses arm strength and he's not that athletic.
Here's a great
Chargers
stat,
were very smart.
Worst quarterback rating in the league out of the pocket, Baker Mayfield.
Woo!
In the NFL.
Where'd you get that?
Wow, this is what I do. I study football. I'm a gambling guy. So I'm telling you, you get Baker off his spot, he's in big trouble. And I believe there's going to be a lot of questions about Baker Mayfield.
I didn't even know that. Did you hear, Joy, about the
7.5 is his passer rating out of the pocket. That's 7 point worst in the league. Now Sam Darnold's down there as well, but it's ugly for Baker.
Wow.
And he also sprained his knee going out of bounds awkwardly.
Did you hear about the Tyrod Taylor? I didn't hear about that. I didn't hear that.
So I believe it was Wednesday in the Plain Dealer. Tyrod Taylor, the media finally asked him, "Oh, how are you, Tyrod?" And he's like, "Well, I'm wasting my time. I'm sitting on the bench. I'm fine. I'm out of concussion protocol. I don't want to ask for a trade, but." He kind of softened it because he's not a ruffle the feathers guy. He's a nice guy. And listen, if you're the New York Giants, you take a Tyrod Taylor over Eli Manning?
The Chargers gave you a little bit of a way to beat Baker. Up the middle, make him struggle to see over the top, force him out of the pocket. And that stat you gave is great. Okay, finally, we got an NBA one.
Oh, yes.
Monday's headlines today, Rockets-Lakers, tomorrow LeBron's home debut.
I'm trying to get you to go to this game. Broussard and I are going, very excited.
You are?
Yeah, listen, it's going to be a packed house. Lakers-Rockets.
Are you kidding me?
Come on, man, we'll bring you along. The headline will be, Joy, look away. Lakers, clearly second best team in the West.
Oh, you think?
I'm dead serious about this. Hold on.
Why would I look away?
Colin and Joy, did you see the huddles last night for the Lakers? They were wearing name tags. Rondo, LeBron, Lance Stevenson.
JaVale McGee.
They had 3 new starters and nearly beat Portland, which is unbeatable at home. Nearly beat them on the road.
Portland's won 18 straight home openers.
How many times this year is the Lakers going to miss 15 straight threes to open the game? That's not going to happen. I was really impressed with the performance last night. I think interior defense is an issue because did you see how Evan Turner was like posting up Lonzo Ball? You can't have that stuff. But the Rockets, they got some problems. They got blown out at home in the opener. You see that?
Well,
blown out.
Their issue is a real one, which is Trevor Ariza, who played great in his opener. They're not going to be as good. This NBA now, man, you got to be able to shoot. And the other thing is, you got to be able to defend the perimeter.
Yeah.
That's the league.
What,
if you
Carmelo Anthony can't defend the perimeter?
No, that's my...
No, here's the best part. Carmelo Anthony, middle of the second quarter, the video's online. It got tons of retweets and all that. He's ISO'd with Anthony Davis. Right? And he decides, I'm going to dribble, shoot a long two-pointer. Anthony Davis blocked it. Anthony Davis just blocked his shot. You look at the huddle. Mike D'Antoni was just like, my gosh, what did I get myself into?
Let's play the LeBron. He was Mike last night. Let's watch
I
some
love
of
this stuff.
Let's run some of this stuff.
You stay high. Wherever go high. I got the rim. You stay high. Stay down. We got you. Anytime you fall, anytime y'all fall, stay down. Your brother come pick you up.
I love that. That's fantastic. Is that not? No. I mean, how can you not love LeBron James?
Well, there's people out there.
Who does not like LeBron?
Crazy people.
Certifiably crazy. Like, he's just a fun athlete. He's a generational guy. Like, enjoy him, man. He's here now.
By the way, you grew up in the East Coast. I grew up on the West Coast. We have a chance for a Dodgers-Red Sox World Series. I will tell you this, and I don't have a problem saying this. I would root for Aaron Rodgers to make the Super Bowl over Blake Bortles. I would, I don't want a Super Bowl.
Understandable.
Listen, if I get the Dodgers, if I get the Brewers, I get analytics and Craig Counsell visiting the mound 12 times. If I get the Dodgers-Red Sox, I'm going to get Mookie Betts, J.D. Martinez, David Price, Chris Sale, Fenway Park, Dodger Stadium, Cody Bellinger, Yasiel Puig, Justin Turner, Manny Machado.
Wow, you just
Clayton
rattled off
Kershaw.
the entire roster.
Who do you want? I mean,
I am worried about the pitching situation for the Dodgers here heading into the final two
Who would
games
go
on
in the last?
road.
Who would go in the last game for the Dodgers? I should probably know that.
I don't think it can be Kershaw.
No, I don't think it is
either.
either.
He could come out of the bullpen maybe in a spot.
God, then he beat hosed in the opener. Bueller, the kid. Well, he was good though. No, he's been.
I thought you were making a Ferris Bueller joke.
No.
Okay.
So listen, here's the way baseball works. Everybody watches their home team. So
Yes.
I have Spectrum Sports in Los Angeles, so I watch the Dodgers. So I know the Dodgers lineup, and I follow like the Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, just in case they get the World Series.
Obviously.
So these teams I've actually watched play.
Yeah.
I don't watch the Brewers. I'm not going to lie. It's nothing against Milwaukee.
What a weekend for sports.
Oh,
Usually
my God.
November's the best month because of college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA. October might surpass it.
Dodgers Brewers Game 6 tonight on this network, 7:30 Eastern, FS1, also right here in Los Angeles if you're listening to me on AM 570. All right, good stuff. J-Mac, you're awesome. Radio gone, TV back in a second. It's The Herd.